An 18th-tier minor celebrity just wanted to live a quiet life with his child, but ended up being tragically kidnapped. The other party didn't want money or his life, only his precious son. How could someone be so domineering? Even a tycoon can't act like that. In the great battle for the child, who will be the final winner? Or will they both become winners? Ian called Pang Dao, saying he had been kidnapped. Pang Dao thought he was just making up an excuse to take leave. Feng Jingyao smiled and asked if he was seeking outside help. 40 minutes earlier, Ian had asked Pang Dao for leave, promising to be back within 2 hours. He hoped Pang Dao would agree, for the sake of his good performance just now. In the end, Pang Dao agreed to give him an hour and a half of leave. After thanking Pang Dao, Ian disappeared. He went to the dressing room, quickly removed his makeup, and changed his clothes. He asked Yu Jia to help tidy up his costume, saying he was stepping out for a bit and would be back soon. Ian put on a mask and sunglasses, ready to leave. There were many people at the kindergarten gate, but Ian spotted the child in front of the main entrance at a glance. That was his son, Ro-Ro. Ro-Ro was also excited when he noticed him. Ian took off his mask and ran towards Ro-Ro. The father and son hugged each other. On the way home, Ro-Ro was eating ice cream. Ian checked his phone, planning to take a shortcut home with his son. Ro-Ro shared his ice cream with Ian. Neither of them noticed a car parked on the roadside. The men in black in the car saw the father and son's interaction and heard the order to move through their earpieces. The men in black quickly got out of the car and surrounded the father and son. Ian thought they were his crazed fans, but the leader of the men in black lit a cigarette and asked him to come with him. The father and son were instantly dumbfounded. They both sensed that something was wrong. The man in black revealed a sinister smile. The father and son immediately hugged each other tightly. Ian even handed his wallet to the man in black. Thinking they wanted money, he offered to give them more on the condition that they let Ro-Ro go. Ian knew he couldn't escape from so many people. He could only ask his parents to prepare a ransom. The man in black took a step forward and threw away the cigarette in his hand. Ian wanted to call Pang Dao before being taken away, but before he could finish his sentence, the man in black snatched his phone and ordered the others to take them away. The father and son were very nervous inside the car. Ro-Ro said bluntly that he needed to pee. Ian, his mind in turmoil, felt the same. The car drove to a luxurious manor. After pushing the two of them through the main gate, the men in black shut it crisply. Ian heard someone calling him from the side. A young female assistant had been waiting for him for a long time. Ian thought the female assistant was one of his obsessive fans, but she just asked him to sit down, saying her boss would be there shortly. Ro-Ro suddenly tugged on Ian's clothes. His face was red from holding in his pee, and he was about to burst. Ian quickly asked the female assistant where the restroom was. After the father and son took care of their biological needs, they let out a long sigh of relief. As they came out, they peeked at the situation in the hall and noticed a man already sitting on the sofa. It was Feng Jingyao. Ian sat opposite him, holding Ro-Ro. Feng Jingyao got straight to the point, stating that the child he was holding was his own biological son. Feng Jingyao thanked Ian for raising him all these years and asked him to return his son to him. Feng Jingyao pushed forward a check for 5 million. If it wasn't enough, he could double it. But Ian threw a bank card on the table. The 50,000 inside was for their trouble in kidnapping them. Ro-Ro also dug into his pockets and threw out a handful of candy. Feng Jingyao's male assistant reminded Ian that he should look at the amount on the check before deciding. But Ian didn't want to look. He had already put up his life savings. They were clearly a group of scammers with an unprofessional story. Feng Jingyao's expression darkened. He had his male assistant show Ian the proof. The male assistant handed a DNA test report to Ian, stating that Feng Jingyao had no ill intentions and that they needed to talk calmly. Ian knew that he and his son couldn't leave until things were cleared up. He took the report, wanting to see what this group was up to. Ian opened the report and saw the DNA test results for Ro-Ro and Feng Jingyao. Ian questioned Feng Jingyao's meaning. He had confirmed that Ro-Ro was his son. It wasn't something he would just hand over because of this. Ian threw the test report into the air. Feng Jingyao quietly watched the papers fall. He believed Ian didn't need to know what happened back then. The fact was that the child was his. Ian hu get Ro-Ro tightly. When he had undergone the artificial insemination process, he had supervised the entire procedure. This wasn't something any testing agency could just fudge. Besides, he also had a DNA test report. Ian wanted to prove to Feng Jingyao that Ro was his child. He gestured at Ro's eyes, then pointed to his own. Feng Jingyao thought they looked more like him. Ian then gestured to Ro's nose. Then he struck a pose to show off his own perfect side profile and nose, and Ro's chubby lips. Ian made a cute face, which made Feng Jingyao cringe a little. Ian also showed off Ro's little canine teeth, which were exactly like his. Feng Jingyao realized he really didn't have canine teeth. Ian insisted that his son was the spitting image of him. This left Feng Jingyao and the others utterly speechless, thinking Ian must be blind. Feng Jingyao didn't want to waste any more words with Ian. With a wave of his hand, men in black swarmed in. Ignoring Ian's struggles, they forcibly separated the father and son. For the men in black lifted Ian up. Seeing his father being carried away, Ro's eyes immediately filled with tears. He threw himself on the floor and started a tantrum, leaving the men in black at a loss. The male assistant suddenly received a call and was listening to what the other person was saying. At this time, Ro was still crying and wailing uncontrollably, leaving the men in black completely helpless. Ro's tantrum subsided a little. He secretly glanced around, and his eyes landed on Feng Jingyao, who had been sitting the whole time. He sat up, remembering the lesson of to catch bandits, first catch the king. Thinking no one had noticed, he approached Feng Jingyao. Feng Jingyao let him approach. Ro grabbed the leg of Feng Jingyao's pants, then hugged his calf and bit down hard. He bit so hard that drool flew everywhere, leaving Feng Jingyao utterly speechless. The male assistant reported to Feng Jingyao that there was a situation with second master Feng, and he had to go in person. It was inconvenient for Feng Jingyao to take Ro with him, but he didn't trust leaving him with others. He easily broke free from Ro's grasp and looked at Ian, who was clinging desperately to the door. In the end, he decided to send the father and son back and just assign more men to watch them. The men in black removed the entire door and carried the father and son away, unceremoniously pushing them out the door. Ian was a bit dazed, thinking he had just been dreaming. The father and son returned home easily. Ian collapsed onto the sofa, holding Ro, complaining about how awful those people were. Ro told him not to worry, because he would protect him, so he shouldn't be sad. As Ro spoke, he fell asleep. Ian kissed Ro's hand. As long as he had his son, he wouldn't be sad. Ian hadn't thought about that sad past for a long time. Back then, he had just gone through a breakup and was dragged by a friend to an audition. At the audition, he sat dejectedly in a chair. The director noticed him by chance. Seeing his handsome and melancholic expression, he immediately decided that he would be the supporting male lead in the web drama. His busy life left him no time for distractions, causing him to fail 3 courses that semester. His counselor suggested he take a leave of absence to adjust his mindset. Acting gradually became what he wanted to do. When his parents heard his decision, his mother was the first to disagree, because she wanted Ian to get married and have children early. Ian made a promise that if he hadn't made a name for himself by 25, he would do whatever his mother said. He faced a harsh reality with his grand dreams. He was almost 25, but he could still only act in web dramas. The friend who had dragged him to the audition had already become a top-tier celebrity. What Ian faced next was the matchmaking his mother had arranged for him. The endless matchmaking sessions left him exhausted. A friend had a flash of inspiration and gave him an idea. Artificial insemination was very mature abroad. Without his parents' knowledge, Ian took all his savings and went to a foreign country. He met with experts countless times and was crystal clear about every step of the process. He had gone through a phase of confusion, but the moment he saw Ro, he was determined to protect him. Therefore, Feng Jingyao must be making things up. Ian thought this as he bathed Ro, not noticing when Ro suddenly hugged him. During their play, a mark on Ro's lower back was revealed. In a manner, Feng Jingyao was also taking a shower. In the process, the mark on his left abdomen was clearly visible. That mark was identical to Ro's. Feng Jingyao was certain that he and Ian would meet again. While drying his hair, Feng Jingyao looked over the files on Ian and his son. The male assistant spoke from outside the door, saying the old master wanted to see him in the study. Feng Jingyao straightened his freshly put-on shirt and went to the study. But the study was empty. He skillfully went to the bookshelf, took down a book, and pressed it firmly. A secret door slowly opened. In the secret room, the old master was already sitting and waiting for him. Feng Jingyao first greeted his grandfather. The old master directly asked him what he had done. Second Master Feng was suddenly stirring up trouble. He lectured him that even though he had just become the head of the family, he shouldn't be so rash. If the matter was brought before him, it would be hard for him to be partial to his own grandson. Feng Jingyao explained that Second Master Feng had touched someone he shouldn't have. The old master put down his teacup and scoffed, asking if it was that female university student or the recent minor celebrity. Feng Jingyao wasn't surprised that the old master knew his every move. The old master told him to settle down. The Qin family's daughter was returning to the country this year, and it would be best for the two families to get engaged within a year. Miss Qin doesn't tolerate any nonsense. Feng Jingyao felt that since the old master would find out sooner or later, he might as well tell him now. It wasn't a university student or a minor celebrity that Second Master Feng had targeted, but his own biological son. The old master didn't react at first, calmly taking a sip of tea. When he understood, he spat the tea right out. He grabbed Feng Jingyao by the collar and asked what he was saying. The old master slapped away the hand Feng Jingyao offered with a handkerchief. How did he not know he had a great-grandson? The old master sat down in a huff and asked about his great-grandson's situation. When he learned that his great-grandson was already 3, almost 4, he spat out another mouthful of old blood. The hand pointing at Feng Jingyao trembled uncontrollably. He had told Feng Jingyao long ago that the bloodline of the eldest son of the main branch was special, but Feng Jingyao had let it go in one ear and out the other. The old master fell silent for a moment at this point, then raised his hand to discipline Feng Jingyao. Feng Jingyao told him not to believe such fabricated nonsense. The old master pulled open his collar to retort. Was this something that could be casually made up? That was the mark of the eldest son of the main branch of the Feng family. Only one person in each generation inherited it. This was the symbol of their bloodline. The ancestors' prophecy couldn't be wrong. The old master looked at the photo Feng Jingyao handed him, rubbing his hands in anticipation. However, he didn't expect the child to be mixed race. He confirmed again and again if this was Feng Jingyao's biological son. He wanted to know what exactly happened 5 years ago. After all, Rou's curly hair didn't resemble Feng Jingyao's. Feng Jingyao only stated that the matter was related to the elders of the clan, and he couldn't reveal too much. The old master looked down at Rou in the photo. He agreed to let the past go, but he needed to know how Rou got targeted by his second Master Feng. Feng Jingyao knew that after his father's death, Second Master Feng had always wanted to inherit the position of family head, but he was an obstacle. Previously, he discovered that Second Master Feng was investigating a hospital abroad. He became vigilant and made a move against Second Master Feng's people. The old master knew that many of the branch families were currently dissatisfied with the main branch holding power and were not very settled. Although Second Master Feng had designs on the family head position, he didn't think he would harm a child. Feng Jingyao recalled old memories. Although he had his suspicions, he couldn't voice them. He could only tell the old master not to interfere in Rou's affairs. After all, if the old master got involved, Rou's situation would become even worse. The old master agreed and told Feng Jingyao to bring his great-grandson back as soon as possible. The secret door slowly closed. Feng Jingyao received a call from one of the men in black. Ian had taken Rou out to the film set. The time was already past 11 p.m. Feng Jingyao didn't understand what Ian was trying to do. Half an hour earlier, Ian was reading a storybook to Rou. Looking at Rou's sleeping face, Ian turned off the light and silently wished Rou sweet dreams. After closing the door, Ian felt something in his pocket. He took it out and saw it was his phone. He felt like he had forgotten something important. After thinking back, he suddenly realized with a jolt. He had forgotten about Pang Dao. He quickly turned on his phone. As soon as it powered on, a series of missed call notifications sounded. He quickly called Pang Dao back to apologize, but Pang Dao hung up on him crisply. On the verge of tears, he called again. Pang Dao still refused to answer. When he pleaded for Pang Dao to answer on his 4th try, the call finally connected. He quickly apologized to Pang Dao. Pang Dao didn't want to hear his explanation and just told him to get there today or not to bother coming at all. Pang Dao hung up the phone directly. Ian noticed he only had a little over an hour left. He quickly woke Ro up, needing to send him to his grandmother's house. He carried a sleepy-eyed Ro into the elevator and went downstairs to ring the doorbell. He frantically rang the doorbell, trying to get his parents to open the door. Ro noticed a piece of paper on the ground, picked it up, and handed it to Ian. Ian took it and saw it was a note from his parents saying they had gone on a trip. He angrily slapped the paper on the ground. He had no choice but to take Ro to the film set. He told the taxi driver to hurry up. The car's speed immediately soared. Finally, Ian arrived at the film set at 12 o'clock. Pang Dao asked unhappily what was going on. Ian explained there was traffic, but that wasn't what Pang Dao was asking about, but why he had brought a child to the set. A string of words lectured Ian. Ian could only apologize to Pang Dao repeatedly, lying that Ro was his cousin, who was very well behaved and wouldn't be noisy. Pang Dao waved his hand, letting it go. He told Ian to hurry up and change. The assistant director secretly gave Ian a thumbs up, telling him to go change with peace of mind. Ian handed Ro over to Yu to look after, while he quickly did his makeup and styling. After changing, he was hoisted up on a wire in front of the green screen. With all the preparations done, Ian was ready to start shooting. Ro, sleeping in the break room, had a dream. In the dream, he couldn't find Ian anywhere. He frantically ran towards a bright light, only to see Ian lying in a pool of blood, motionless. Ro let out a world-shaking cry. In the car, Feng Jingyao suddenly felt a palpitation. He didn't understand where this inexplicable palpitation came from. The old master in the study seemed to sense the same thing. He felt as if he suddenly sensed something. An old man's hand trembled as he poured tea. He was Feng Jingyao's grandfather, Feng Mingfu. He knew that the child from the prophecy had been born. Ro woke up, crying loudly. The sound of his crying reached the set and was heard by Ian. He was distracted for a moment, lost his balance, and his posture was off, causing the take to be a no-go. They had to lower him down and start over. Ian wondered if the crying he just heard was his imagination. Ro cried as he searched the entire set for Ian. Yu couldn't catch up with him at all and could only run after him. When Ro saw Ian getting his makeup touched up, a joyful expression immediately appeared on his face. But then he remembered the scene he saw in his dream and stood frozen in fear. Pang Dao told Ian to get in position, ready to shoot again. Ian listened intently to Pang Dao's countdown. When Pang Dao shouted action, Ro suddenly rushed forward and hugged Ian, who was on the wire. The wire was still rising. Ro cried that he had been looking for him for so long. Ian quickly told Ro not to let go under any circumstances. Pang Dao's crew was stunned into a daze by the scene before them. They quickly had the swaying pair lowered. The father and son landed safely on the ground. Ro threw himself into Ian's arms, crying, and demanded that Ian sleep with him tonight. Ian told him to watch the filming from his side. Ro refused, strongly demanding to go home. Ian didn't understand why Ro, who was rarely so willful, was acting like this. He could only comfort him and tell him to sleep for a while, but Ro refused no matter what. Ian secretly glanced at Pang Dao and saw his face was incredibly foul, his arms crossed as he stared intently in their direction. The assistant director suggested using a stunt double. The previous scene was a wide shot, so the face wouldn't be visible. Ian could just film a few close-ups later. Pang Dao snorted but still agreed. The assistant director told the father and son to leave quickly. Back in the dressing room, Ian lectured Ro for being naughty today, saying it was too dangerous to rush over like that. Ro sniffled. He was just afraid that Ian would be gone. His hand, holding Ian's, was still trembling. Ian sighed and held Ro in his arms, comforting him not to be afraid. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from outside, followed by the sound of someone calling for an ambulance. The staff frantically searched for the first aid kit. Ian still didn't know what had happened. He went into the crowd and heard that the stunt double had suddenly fallen. Ian looked onto the set and saw the stunt double lying motionless on the ground, blood pooling from his head. Ian quickly covered Ro's eyes, but Ro peeked through the gaps and saw something churning on the stunt double's body. He pushed away Ian's hand to get a closer look. He saw a layer of red smoke covering the stunt double. Ro didn't know what it was. Soon, the red smoke vanished into the air. The staff were still performing first aid. The assistant director was instructing someone to contact the nearest hospital and arranging for someone to check on the lighting crew situation. He noticed Ian and told him they couldn't film today, asking him to take the child home first. Ian knew some simple first aid to stop bleeding and wanted to go check on the stunt double's condition. The assistant director was a bit hesitant. Pang Dao flashed over and told Ian to come help first. After saying that, he ran off in a flash. It turned out the stunt double wasn't the only one injured. The crane had tilted and hit the lighting rig, and someone from the lighting crew was also injured. Pang Dao flashed back to urge Ian to help. The assistant director sighed helplessly and told Ian not to bring the child over, as it was too bloody for a child. Ian told Ro to sit obediently on a box and that he would be right back. Ro didn't want Ian to go. Ian explained to Ro that he was going to help, using the time Ro had pinched his hand as an example. He told Ro to be good and that he would be back soon. Ro wanted to say something more, but Ian had already left. Ian proactively grabbed the first aid kit, rolled up his sleeves, and prepared to help stop the stunt double's bleeding. A staff member nearby followed his instructions to help. Ro looked towards Ian. He suddenly discovered something strange. Red smoke was rising from the stunt double's body again. The red smoke moved towards Ian. Ro didn't expect this dirty thing to be approaching Ian. The red smoke entered Ian's body. Ro was very worried about Ian and quickly ran over. He didn't notice that he bumped into a passing staff member. Ro staggered and fell to the ground. He was in a lot of pain, but he bravely got up to find Ian. Ro bumped into another person. He looked up and saw Pang Dao's gloomy face. He was very scared of Pang Dao with this expression. Pang Dao gave him a big push, telling him to stay aside and not cause trouble. Ro, sitting on the ground, trembled but still wanted to find Ian. He noticed the red smoke spreading and frantically drilling into Ian's body. He didn't understand why Ian wasn't dodging. He shouted loudly to warn Ian of the danger and tried to get to his side again. Pang Dao grabbed him by the collar, cursing through gritted teeth for causing trouble at a time like this. Thinking he was a jinx, he was about to hit him. Ro raised his hands in fear to block. Pang Dao's hand was suddenly grabbed by someone. He looked behind him unhappily. Feng Jingyao, with a dark expression, asked him, "Who gave you permission to touch my son?" The female assistant took Ro and held him in her arms. Ro only heard a cry of surprise. The men in black had already subdued Pang Dao. Feng Jingyao told her to take Ro to the car first. Ro struggled unhappily, insisting on finding Ian. Feng Jingyao sighed at this scene and told the female assistant to give Ro to him. He reached out towards the fiercely struggling Ro. Once in his arms, Ro's movements lessened. Ro looked at Feng Jingyao's expressionless face and didn't dare to make a fuss like before. Instead, he quietly expressed that he wanted to find Ian. Feng Jingyao agreed, but said he would have to take him away later. At this moment, Ian had already stopped the bleeding. He didn't notice Ro approaching quickly. Ro pounced and hugged Ian's neck. Ian didn't know how he got over. He turned his head and saw Feng Jingyao walking over. Ian immediately became vigilant and asked what he was doing here. Feng Jingyao was very displeased. If he hadn't come, Ro would have been beaten by someone else. Ro also complained to Ian that Pang Dao was going to hit him. Ian saw the subdued Pang Dao, not understanding why Pang Dao would hit Ro. Ian stood up holding Ro, walked past Feng Jingyao without a word, and kicked Pang Dao in the crotch, telling him to go to hell. Ian could tolerate other things, but Pang Dao had actually laid a hand on his precious son. He would make Pang Dao unable to have children. Feng Jingyao was very surprised by his action. The female assistant couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ian declared defiantly that he quit. Pang Dao could find whoever he wanted to act. He was taking Ro home. Although he said he was going home, he kept backing away, carefully keeping his distance from Feng Jingyao. But he still bumped into a man in black. Following Feng Jingyao's order, the father and son were carried away by the man in black. They returned to Feng Jingyao's manor. Ian yelled that he wanted to go home. Feng Jingyao reminded him that it was 2:30 a.m. What should a child under 4 years old be doing? Ian knew Ro needed to sleep. He wanted to explain to Feng Jingyao, but Feng Jingyao didn't want to listen. No reason could justify him taking such a young child to a film set. He was not qualified to raise Ro. Ian's expression fell. Feng Jingyao arranged a room for them. After Ian went in, he looked at Feng Jingyao at the door. Feng Jingyao was still glaring at him. He couldn't help but swallow nervously. He only breathed a sigh of relief after Feng Jingyao closed the door. While Ian was showering, Ro woke up. After his shower, Ian tied his bathrobe and came to his son's side. Ro wanted Ian to hold him in his daddy's arms. It was very comfortable. Ro suddenly remembered that something had entered Ian's body. He grabbed Ian's bathrobe and suddenly pushed it up, then started rummaging through Ian's hair. When Feng Jingyao opened the door, he had brought a doctor to check on the child. He saw Ian interacting with Ro at a glance. Ian froze on the spot when he saw him. Feng Jingyao's face instantly darkened. Feng Jingyao told the doctor to leave, but to leave the first aid kit. Then he demanded that Ian given the child. Ian refused. Feng Jingyao warned him not to make him repeat himself. Ian firmly disagreed. Ro chimed in to agree. Feng Jingyao started to act, scolding Ian for making the child stay up all night with him. Feng Jingyao grabbed Ro by the waist. Ro's resisting little hands flailed around and grabbed a handful of Ian's hair. Feng Jingyao's grip was strong, and Ro's grip was also very tight. Ian felt like he was going bald. In the end, a clump of Ian's hair was pulled out. His feet slipped, and he fell backward. Feng Jingyao tried to avoid Ian's feet, also lost his balance, and fell forward. He knelt on the bed with one leg, his whole body hovering over Ian. Looking at Ian before him, he was speechless for a moment. It was Ian who first reminded him that he was too close. Feng Jingyao threw a piece of clothing at Ian and ordered him to put on. Ian was a little unhappy with his fierce tone. After all, they were both men. After changing, Ian asked Feng Jingyao what he was here for. He noticed Feng Jingyao reaching for the resisting Ro. Feng Jingyao explained to him that Ro's hand was injured and needed to be disinfected. Upon hearing this, Ian became very worried and quickly went to look at Ro's hand. He reached into the first aid kit to search, telling Ro to endure the pain for a moment and that he would blow on it for him. The pain made Ro sniffle and tear up. Ian quickly blew on it, comforting him that it didn't hurt. Feng Jingyao, watching the father and son's interaction, silently got up and left the room. After closing the door, he looked at it in silence. After a long while, he turned and left decisively. Ian was still lecturing Ro that he had to tell him if he got hurt in the future. He bandaged Ro's wound so that no germs would cause an infection. Ro remembered the dirty thing again and reminded Ian that there was a dirty thing on him. He was a bit puzzled and sniffed himself. He had clearly just taken a shower. Ro insisted he saw it and had also dreamed that Ian was bleeding. Ian reassured him that dreams are the opposite of reality, and he was fine now. He carried Ro to the bed. It was getting late, so he told Ro to sleep quickly. Looking at Ro's sleeping face, Ian blamed himself for being inconsiderate and bringing the child to the film set, silently apologizing to Ro. He fell asleep thinking about it, but Ro opened his eyes, wondering where the dirty thing had gone. When Ian opened his eyes, it was bright outside. He saw Ro's sleeping face and contentedly stroked Ro's ear. He suddenly realized this wasn't his home. He had arrived too late last night to observe it properly. Looking at it now, this place was too luxurious. He nudged Ro, calling him to get up, but Ro just rolled over and continued to sleep. Ian sighed helplessly, got out of bed, put on slippers, and quietly opened the door to look outside. The interior decoration was incredibly magnificent. Ian felt like his eyes were going to be blinded. A maid who had been waiting by the door for a long time greeted him politely. She had been placed here by Feng Jingyao. She said that breakfast was ready on the first floor. Ian immediately went back into the room to wake Ro up to wash. Ro rubbed his sleepy eyes. Ian squeezed toothpaste onto his toothbrush. After the two of them washed up at the sink, they went out dazzled by all the expensive furnishings. The maid led them to the dining room. A lavish breakfast was already prepared. The father and son, now used to the glittering gold, wolfed down their breakfast. The maid called out to Ian and handed him his phone. The phone's notification sounds were going off nonstop. Ian took it and saw it was a call from his agent, Zhang Jie. He swallowed and pressed answer, calling out Zhang Jie in an affected tone, asking why she thought of calling him. Zhang Jie knew about last night's incident and told him to come to the company to talk. Ian looked at the disconnected phone with a grave expression. Ro asked with concern what was wrong. Ian definitely had to go to the company, but could he take Ro with him? He had to find a way to leave with Ro. He had a flash of inspiration and whispered to Ro for a while. After communicating with Ro, he picked him up with high spirits and began his plan. Ian moved quickly through the hall. A man in black appeared and blocked him, stating that he could go, but Ro had to stay. Ian knew it wouldn't be that easy to fool them. He complained inwardly that the man was too domineering. It was clear this was about the agency. He had to get there as soon as possible. Now, he could only implement the second plan. He pinched Ro's cheek, signaling the prepared Ro to start his performance. Feng Jingyao had just finished a meeting and told everyone else to get back to work. His phone rang while he was reading a document. His assistant handed him the phone. It was a man in black reporting that Yun had escaped with Ro. Not long after returning to the room, Ro said he felt unwell. He wouldn't cooperate even when the doctor came. Ian insisted on taking Ro to the hospital for a full checkup. They escaped while at the hospital. Feng Jingyao angrily slammed the table, telling them to go find them immediately. He forcefully hung up the phone, complaining that the big one and the small one were so troublesome. He clicked his tongue in displeasure. Did Ian really think he could escape like this? He'd be waiting for the runaway pair. Feng Jingyao looked at his phone, thought for a moment, and decided to go find them himself. His assistant reminded him that he had an important meeting soon. But in Feng Jingyao's heart, how could a meeting be more important than his son? The men in black were searching extensively in the hospital. Yun and his son quietly slipped out of a storage room. After successfully getting on a bus, the father and son both sighed in relief. Ian praised Ro for his good acting, saying the next Best Actor award would surely be his. The father and son hugged each other tightly and laughed. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of Xiangqing Entertainment. Many fans were cheering and welcoming Zheng Lily, who had just appeared. Looking at the elegant Zheng Lily in the crowd, Ian felt the gap between people. When Zheng Lily first joined the company, she had called him brother. Now, he had to call her sister Lily in return. Ian knocked on the office door. Zhang Jie said, "Please come in." Looking up, she noticed Ian and the child he was holding by the hand. Ian explained that he was a relative's child, and since no one was available to look after him recently, he guaranteed Ro would be very well behaved and not affect his work. Zhang Jie was charmed by Ro's cuteness and smilingly asked the father and son to sit down. Zhang Jie asked Ian if he had offended anyone recently. Ian thought Director Pang was preparing to settle scores, but Zhang Jie said Director Pang was so injured he was mentally incoherent. Ian had clearly only kicked Director Pang once. Could Director Pang be faking it? Zhang Jie handed him a newspaper. This morning, a scandal about Director Pang embezzling public funds broke, along with the set accident. The injured stunt double was still under observation in the intensive care unit, and the situation was not optimistic. This led the investors not only to withdraw their funding, but also to demand an audit and accountability. Jiwoo had already called to negotiate the termination of Yun's contract. It was obvious Director Pang had offended some powerful figure, so Zhang Jie was worried that Yun had as well. On second thought, she felt it was unlikely, but she asked him if he felt he'd been very unlucky. If last night's set incident was an accident, then the 2 films he shot before, Song Shun, was shelved. The one that had been released was taken down, and the one being rebroadcast had very few of his scenes. In summary, this was no longer ordinary bad luck. It was plausible that someone was pulling strings behind the scenes. That's why Zhang Jie hadn't properly promoted him these past few years. He clearly had the face of someone destined for great fame. So why couldn't he become popular? Ian thought it was because he wasn't working hard enough. Zhang Jie didn't think so. She thought his luck was bad. Zhang Jie told Ian to take a good vacation, as she wouldn't be arranging for him to join any new productions recently. This wasn't to shelve him. She suggested he shoot some print ads first. A subordinate reported to Feng Jingyao that they had found the father and son. Feng Jingyao wanted to know where they were. The subordinate said they were shooting a labor protection ad. Feng Jingyao was a little angry. They had dispatched so many people to find them, only to find out they were shooting an ad. Yun was posing according to the photographer's instructions. Every shot was exactly the feeling the photographer wanted. The photographer praised Yun profusely and asked him to give a more intense gaze. The staff on set believed this time it would be a huge seller. In the dressing room, the makeup artist asked Yun how he maintained his skin. Ian replied it was just basic moisturizing care. Ro rushed up to him. His stomach was hungry. Ian promised to take him for a big meal later. The photographer called Yun over to see the next outfit. It was mature yet cute, a perfect fit for him. Ian didn't understand how those 2 words could go together. The photographer suddenly saw Ro and was instantly captivated by his cuteness. He asked Iyun who the child was and if the child could join for a set of photos. He had a free voucher for a limited edition cake shop as payment. The father and son agreed at once. The father and son took many interactive parent-child photos together. The photographer praised how cute Ro was in the photos. The studio's boss, Mr. Zhang, led Feng Jingyao into the photo studio, explaining to others that he was just showing an investor's representative around. The assistant pointed to where Iyun was. At first, Feng Jingyao didn't understand the pose the father and son were making. When the father and son pressed their faces together, that heartwarming scene moved Feng Jingyao a little. Mr. Zhang handed him a product catalog. He took it perfunctorily. Mr. Zhang introduced Iyun as a long-term model they worked with. Feng Jingyao asked if Iyun often shot small ads. Mr. Zhang affirmed Iyun's professional skills, his good figure, and his top-notch ability to sell products. The styles he modeled all became bestsellers. The one he was shooting now would surely sell well too. Feng Jingyao looked away, displeased, and closed the catalog. Iyun noticed the commotion over here. Feng Jingyao quickly turned to avoid his gaze, so he didn't notice anything unusual. Iyun looked away, wondering if it was his imagination. He kept feeling a very strong gaze. Feng Jingyao secretly turned his head to check the situation. Mr. Zhang was about to take him to the next photo studio to look around. On Iyun's side, he and Ro struck a pose that Feng Jingyao had seen before. Feng Jingyao ordered his assistant to suppress this set of photos and not to publish them. Instead, send them to his email alone. Feng Jingyao ordered Xiao Zhang to stay and watch the two of them, then turned and left. Feng Jingyao arrived at Baixing Huangyu Entertainment. The man asked why he had come over. Feng Jingyao said it was for business, of course. This person was Bai Muyang, the CEO of Baixing Huangyu. He made a few sarcastic remarks. Feng Jingyao ignored him and instead asked him for a favor. Feng Jingyao took out a photo of Iyun and demanded a complete ban on Iyun. Bai Muyang didn't look at the photo, assuming some hot new star had displeased Feng Jingyao. He guessed Yao Shiwan and Wang Quan, both stars who piggybacked on his popularity. But Feng Jingyao denied it was them. Bai Muyang thought it might be an international big shot then. Baixing Huangyu couldn't just ban whoever they wanted. Best actors and actresses have a lot of influence in the industry. He finally looked at the photo on the table. Leaning in for a closer look, he found he didn't recognize him. Feng Jingyao told Bai Muyang Iyun's name, and that he had debuted 6 or 7 years ago. Bai Muyang was very surprised. He had no impression of someone who had been in the industry for so long. He immediately made an excuse to go to the restroom and left. In the restroom, Bai Muyang opened his phone and looked up Iyun's information online. He found that he only had over 40,000 fans. He returned to Feng Jingyao furiously and asked if he was joking. This person was less popular than an internet celebrity. Feng Jingyao was not joking. He wanted to make it impossible for this person to survive in the entertainment industry. Bai Muyang said that Feng Jingyao could do such a small thing himself. Feng Jingyao could crush him with one finger, leaving him no chance to recover. Feng Jingyao remained unmoved and asked him if he would do it or not. Bai Muyang naturally agreed, but he wanted to know why. Feng Jingyao didn't tell him. They both picked up their cups and took a sip of coffee at the same time. Bai Muyang suddenly remembered something. He heard that Feng Jingyao's fiancée was returning to the country. Feng Jingyao told him not to spread rumors. The fiancée was just the old master's idea. He hadn't agreed. But Bai Muyang knew the Qin family had already put out feelers, and the other families had heard the news too. Feng Jingyao said if there was really something, he would tell them personally. Bai Muyang thought Miss Qin was not bad. A top student with both looks and talent, someone others would die for. He suspected it was that female university student who had cast a spell on Feng Jingyao. Feng Jingyao was very calm. The university student, Miss Wei, was just a very obedient female companion. Bai Muyang teased. Was he really sure she was obedient? Feng Jingyao was puzzled. There was clearly something he didn't know. Bai Muyang told him that Miss Wei, under the guise of being his girlfriend, was befriending socialites in the circle everywhere, acting like a hostess and dreaming of entering their circle. He reminded him not to judge people just by their appearance. Feng Jingyao planned to have someone warn him. Bai Muyang asked him why he didn't enjoy life. Was there something wrong with him down there? It was making Feng Jingyao very tired. Bai Muyang then asked what Yun's relationship with him was. He had never seen him so concerned about anyone before. It didn't look like deep-seated hatred. He gossiped that it must be love. Feng Jingyao didn't want to talk more and left directly, completely ignoring Bai Muyang's attempts to keep him. Watching the door close, Bai Muyang sighed resentfully. He had never seen Feng Jingyao so worked up over someone. Now he was full of curiosity about this Yun. The next day, after getting the files, Bai Muyang could tell at a glance that there was something wrong with Yun's history. On the surface, it looked like Yun was unlucky, and it shows he was an all-flop. But the works of those several directors were not flop productions. The directors' eyes for casting weren't bad either. They had launched many popular newcomers, but it was specifically the projects Yun participated in that flop. Yun's agency was also interesting. They hadn't given up on an actor like Yun. The roles they gave him were decent. Bai Muyang seemed to understand something. Feng Jingyao was looking at a document. His phone rang. He answered to Bai Muyang's dissatisfied voice. Bai Muyang thought he was being played. He had figured it out. The one doing the bad things and the good things was Feng Jingyao. So if Yun had really offended Feng Jingyao could have just crushed him. What was he playing at now? Wasn't this just playing house? Feng Jingyao told him to do as they discussed yesterday and just banned Bai Muyang. He told him to do it himself, just like in the past few years. Yun hadn't even made a name for himself. He was the local tyrant in the circle. He could nip Yun in the bud. Feng Jingyao's goal was to make him stay at home and live a quiet life. Bai Muyang thought he wanted to keep a lover in a golden cage. He hung up the phone directly. Bai Muyang was really curious. He used the intercom to ask Lin Shi to come in. He told Lin Shi to go to Xiangqing Entertainment to contact Yun as soon as possible. Lin Shi decided to go to Xiangqing Entertainment at 3 p.m. Yun was eating cake with Ro. They even looked at each other while drinking bubble tea. After eating, they both showed expressions of satisfaction. Xiao Zhang reported to Feng Jingyao about them eating dessert. Feng Jingyao couldn't help but smile slightly, thinking to himself that they should eat less sweets. Miss Wei asked what he was smiling about. Feng Jingyao put away his phone without answering and told her she didn't need to accompany him to the reception tonight. Miss Wei asked if he wasn't feeling well, her hand holding the cutlery tightening involuntarily. Feng Jingyao hadn't taken her to a public event in a long time. Feng Jingyao didn't say much, just told her to keep eating. He had something to do. Miss Wei immediately tried to keep him, but Feng Jingyao walked straight out the door. Miss Wei's expression was a bit dejected. She asked the man in black beside her what was wrong with Feng Jingyao. The man in black didn't give her any useful information. On the surface, she appeared very concerned about Feng Jingyao, but inwardly, she suspected. She hadn't been able to contact Feng Jingyao during this period. Maybe there was someone else by his side. Miss Wei had worked so hard to squeeze into this circle, to wear gold and silver and live a decent life. She couldn't let those socialites laugh at her. She must not give them the chance. If she could marry into the Feng family, there would be no problem. She would not allow anyone to ruin her life. The receptionist asked Lin Shi if he had an appointment. An appointment was needed to see President Lei. Lin Shi had a reception in 2 hours. Time was tight. The assistant was very dissatisfied. In the past, when he went with Special Assistant Lin to big companies they partnered with, they could just get in by showing their faces. The assistant told the receptionist to look closely at this business card. The receptionist looked down and examined it carefully, realizing the person was from Baixing Huangyu. He immediately bowed and apologized and used the intercom to notify President Lei. The assistant looked down on a no-name company like Xiangqing Entertainment. They had no discernment at all. After checking, the receptionist nervously said that President Lei was coming down to greet them immediately and sincerely apologized to the two for the wait. After arriving at the general manager's office, General Manager Lei Huan and Vice President Luo Shui welcomed the two. Lei Huan didn't expect the person to be the CEO's assistant, Lin Shi. The last time he saw Lin Shi was at a reception he had barely managed to get into. He thought he had misheard when the receptionist called. Lei Huan said flattering words to Lin Shi. He felt like his luck was about to change. Lin Shi might be here to talk business. He knew a movie was currently holding auditions. Zhang Lily suddenly knocked on the door, smiling as she walked in with water. She was now the top starlet of Xiangqing Entertainment. Everyone gave way to her and pampered her. Baixing Huangyu must be here for her. Lei Huan introduced Zhang Lily to Lin Shi, mentioning her past works. But Lin Shi directly asked about Yun, which stunned Lei Huan and Zheng Lili for a moment. Lei Huan had no impression of Yun at all. Zheng Lili, on the other hand, couldn't believe they were looking for Yun. Luo Shui spoke up at the right moment. Yun had an off-site shoot today. Didn't need to be called back. Lei Huan followed her lead and praised Yun excessively, so much so that it sounded over the top and not like praise anymore. Yun, who was eating, received a call. The call was from Zhang Jia. She told him that Special Assistant Lin from Baixing had personally come to the company asking for him by name. This news startled Yun so much that he spat out his rice and his soul left his body. Ro, however, was angry at him for spitting out his rice. Yun wiped his face for him. Even if he wanted to eat properly, he couldn't. The other party was Baixing Huangyu, a company that stands at the top of the entertainment industry's food chain, a legendary company with overlord status. For them to ask for a nobody like him by name, it was either a ghost encounter or his luck had finally turned. For Zhang Jie, it was more shock than pleasant surprise. Lin Shi hadn't stated his purpose yet, and his schedule was very tight, so they would arrange another meeting at a later time. Ian hung up the phone excitedly. He couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. Was he about to fly up the branch and become a phoenix? In a hospital a few years ago, Feng Jingyao was looking through files on his hospital bed. The assistant handed him the information about the surrogate investigated by the agency. That surrogate was Yun. Feng Jingyao immediately decided it would be Yun. He told the person he had arranged to be careful with the replacement. The assistant's face showed slight hesitation as he asked Feng Jingyao if he really wanted to do this. Feng Jingyao's attitude was very firm. Those old geezers were bent on getting rid of him, to make the main branch of the family airless. He refused to let them have their way. The assistant asked what to do with Yun's original fertilized egg. Feng Jingyao told him to just dispose of it. After some time, the assistant was pushing Feng Jingyao for a walk in the garden. After receiving a call, he told Feng Jingyao the child had been born. Feng Jingyao ordered him to keep an eye on Yun and report via encrypted email at any time. As for the old master, continue sending him the specially prepared life photos. Don't let the old master find out about his injury. When Ro was 1 month old, the assistant handed his 1-month photos to Feng Jingyao to see and demanded continued regular reports. News after Yun returned to the country. Later, the assistant notified him that because the diaper quality was not good, Ro had an allergic reaction. It was Feng Jingyao who immediately had the assistant send a box of high-end imported diapers over. The assistant disguised himself as a delivery person and delivered the diapers to Yun's door. When Yun signed for it, he was completely bewildered, thinking his mother had ordered them. When Yun's mother changed Ro's diaper, she praised the good quality of the new diapers Yun had bought, saying they were breathable and refreshing to wear. After that, Feng Jingyao saw photos of Yun's family celebrating in a restaurant when Ro was 100 days old. Photos of Ro growing up and learning to walk. Photos of Ro going to kindergarten when he was old enough. And now, photos of Yun taking Ro to eat junk food. Feng Jingyao couldn't help but think, can't the Yun father and son eat less junk food? But he still came to the fast food restaurant where the father and son were, watching them each hold a piece of fried chicken. Their movements were synchronized, eating voraciously. They both revealed super happy smiles together. Feng Jingyao sat down next to them, reached out, and took the fried chicken from Ro's hand. Ro realized it belatedly. Only a moment later did he discover the fried chicken in his hand was gone. Ian looked up to find the culprit who stole Ro's fried chicken and saw Feng Jingyao raising the fried chicken to his mouth. The father and son stared intently at Feng Jingyao. Feng Jingyao took a bite of the fried chicken with a crunch. He slowly finished it, crumpled the wrapper in his hand, threw on the tray. He lectured Yun, telling him not to let a small child eat so much fried food. Yun quickly pulled Ro into his arms and asked Feng Jingyao what he was doing here. Feng Jingyao asked back. Yun stammered, unable to explain clearly. Feng Jingyao asked Ro where he felt unwell. Ro was very guilty. He couldn't answer. Feng Jingyao wiped his hands and asked Ro to tell him properly where it hurt. A few years ago, when Feng Jingyao told his assistant to arrange the replacement of the fertilized egg, the assistant called the arranged person and told him they had decided on Yun. Therefore, Pei Yuman asked him to keep a close watch and report, and to dispose of Yun's fertilized egg. Feng Jingyao suddenly interrupted the assistant. He needed to think about it again. The assistant breathed a sigh of relief. He knew Feng Jingyao wouldn't have the heart. He hadn't actually made that call just now. Feng Jingyao decided to cryopreserve Yun's fertilized egg. In the future, he would find a suitable opportunity to compensate Yun. Back to the present. Feng Jingyao wanted to know where Ro hurt, scaring the father and son into telling the truth on the spot. Feng Jingyao reordered food. 2 plates of salad were served. Ro obediently sat back in his seat. Feng Jingyao picked up a piece of salad with his chopsticks for Ro to eat. But Ro looked aggrievedly at Yun. He wanted to eat fried chicken. But Feng Jingyao just pushed a plate of salad to Yun, ordering him to finish it too. As the two were munching on salad, the waiter brought over the fried chicken combo. The extra-large portion of fried chicken showcased Feng Jingyao's wealthy family status. On the other side, the father and son eating salad looked so bleak and pitiful. Feng Jingyao could see that these two still disliked eating vegetables as always. But this junk food tasted pretty good. It could be an occasional change of pace. The two of them reluctantly finished the salad. Feng Jingyao prepared to leave with them. Ian instantly became alert, asking where he was going. Feng Jingyao stated matter-of-factly, "Going home with me." Ian insisted on going back to his own home, warning him that this was illegal confinement and he would call the police. Feng Jingyao pressed down on Ian's phone. Ro's household registration had already been transferred to his name. Ian's had long been canceled. Ian instantly flew into a rage. Feng Jingyao actually stole his household registration book. After returning to the manor, the room was filled with toys prepared for Ro. The glittering gold blinded the father and son. The female assistant reported that these children's play facilities had just been installed this afternoon. Feng Jingyao told the female assistant to play with Ro here. He needed to talk to Ian. He asked Ian to go to the study with him. Ian handed Ro over to the female assistant. Seeing Ro's happy expression, Ian felt a little touched. In the study, Ian sat upright on the chair. He felt there was nothing to talk about. Feng Jingyao had decided not to let Ro go to kindergarten. He would hire a private tutor for Ro. Ian was furious. Ro was his child. He didn't even know Feng Jingyao, and Feng Jingyao was snatching his child. Feng Jingyao nonchalantly introduced himself. Ian told him to get to the point. The point was that he was stealing his son. Feng Jingyao was unmoved. He allowed Ian 1 visitation opportunity per month. Seeing Ian's resistant look, he changed it to twice a month. Ian told him not to talk to himself. 7 visits a week wouldn't be enough. Ian suddenly realized why he was discussing this kind of issue with Feng Jingyao. Feng Jingyao decided to change the subject and talk about Yun as a person. Lei Huan was worried that if they just went back, Baixing Huangyu would forget about them. After all, they hadn't set a specific time. He needed to think of a way to remind Baixing Huangyu. Luo Shui told him not to think of those bad ideas. What's his is his. What's not his, he won't get. Lei Huan thought her words lacked ambition. He was clearly planning ahead. It was so hard to get on this big ship. Luo Shui reminded him not to overdo it. Lei Huan used the intercom to call the PR department, telling them to release the news that a representative from Baixing came to the company for casting, but to keep the role confidential. Luo Shui felt it wasn't good to write it like that. Lei Huan said he didn't understand. This only had benefits and no drawbacks for them. At the very least, their company was tied to Baixing Huangyu for a wave of publicity. What's more, that star he didn't recognize. Not many people knew him anyway. Luo Shui kindly reminded him that the star's name was Yun. Lei Huan paid it no mind, instead telling the PR department to remember to buy a trending topic. At this moment, Ian was puzzled about what he and Feng Jingyao were going to talk about. According to Feng Jingyao's investigation, Yun majored in photography in university. He started shooting web dramas in his sophomore year, then gave up his studies to work full-time on film sets. Now he was barely considered an actor. Ian was stung by his evaluation. Feng Jingyao believed that giving up his studies for a web drama was a clear sign of being eager for quick success. Ian retorted that one should get famous early. It was a race against time. Feng Jingyao reminded him that he was already 28 this year, had been in the industry for 6 or 7 years with almost no name, and had an unstable income. He occasionally needed financial support from his parents. This was the result of his race. Ian was unwilling to accept it, retorting that he just lacked an opportunity. Feng Jingyao continued. Ian spent less than a third of the month with his child. He was not taking care of either his career or his life. Had he ever thought about changing his profession, changing his way of life? Maybe the current path was not suitable for him. Feng Jingyao planned to give him a better life. Ian asked him passively how he would change. If he had asked a few years earlier, he would have considered it. But now he was 28, with no degree and no resume. He couldn't change and had no way to change. Feng Jingyao asked him, assuming he became famous one day, what about Ro Ro? He didn't want Ro Ro to be exposed to the spotlight. Ian would of course protect Ro Ro well. But the reality was, between his career and his child, he could only choose one. Ian of course chose Ro Ro. But this hypothetical was invalid. No one was forcing him to choose. Feng Jingyao was willing to give him a new choice. Ian interrupted what Feng Jingyao was about to say. He knew many people thought he was a joke. He had good conditions and worked hard enough, but he had achieved nothing. But if he gave up right now, then all his past persistence and effort would truly become a joke. Feng Jingyao was silent for a long while. He didn't expect the acting career to be so important to Ian. Was he wrong? Ro Ro was adoring a Yaya doll. Next to it were Yaya doll's 3 good friends. The female assistant also took out a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Steel King Kong for him to see. The female assistant planned to demonstrate Steel King Kong's transformation for Ro Ro. She twisted Steel King Kong, but it didn't move an inch. It was the most dreaded moment of sudden silence. The female assistant twisted Steel King Kong again, still no movement. Ro Ro was a little disappointed, because Steel King Kong was taking too long to transform. The female assistant didn't want to disappoint Ro Ro. She twisted Steel King Kong's head hard. Suddenly, with too much force, she twisted its head off. Under Ro Ro's dumbfounded gaze and the female assistant's forced smile, the parts fell like scattered flower petals. The female assistant tossed Steel King Kong behind her, explaining the toy's quality wasn't very good. Steel King Kong landed to the side. Ro Ro noticed a strange red smoke coming from Steel King Kong. The red smoke rushed straight towards the female assistant. The female assistant was completely unaware, still calling for Ro Ro to play with something else. She picked up the little dinosaur to show Ro Ro. Ro Ro just found the female assistant's smile a bit terrifying. He stared at the female assistant quietly for a while. Suddenly, he opened his mouth wide and let out a scream. The two who were talking heard Ro Ro shout and quickly ran towards Ro Ro. Ro Ro looked at the scene before him, unable to form a complete sentence. Ian ran in and asked him what happened. Ro Ro stammered for a moment, his eyes shining as he said, "There was a big tiger here." The female assistant didn't know what Ro Ro was talking about. In fact, behind her, the phantom of a tiger had appeared. Feng Jingyao did not see the tiger's form. Ian looked left and right, thinking Ro Ro was playing a game. But Ro Ro said there was a big tiger on the female assistant. The female assistant couldn't see anything. Ian wanted to put Ro Ro to bed. The female assistant said in a timely manner that she would play with Ro Ro again tomorrow. Ro Ro insisted there was a tiger. The tiger even squinted its eyes and moved a little. He told Ian to look at the tiger behind the female assistant. Ian didn't see it, thinking Ro Ro was talking about a stuffed toy. Feng Jingyao looked at the insistent Ro Ro in silence. Ian apologized to the female assistant, hoping he hadn't scared her. Ro Ro was unhappy because Ian didn't believe him. Feng Jingyao suddenly confirmed that there was indeed a tiger. Ian scolded him for joining in the nonsense. The tiger took a step towards them. Ro Ro watched it approach and threw himself onto Ian, who was holding his hand. Ro Ro wanted Ian to dodge quickly, but Ian didn't know what to dodge. The tiger was already very close to Ian, and its whole body passed through him. Ian only felt something strange in his body. Then he fell backward. Feng Jingyao caught the falling Ian, asking him where he felt unwell. But he had fainted. The female assistant immediately went to notify the doctor. Ro Ro's eyes were filled with tears because there was something dirty on Ian. Feng Jingyao asked Ro Ro where the dirty thing was. Ro Ro pointed to Ian's left chest. Feng Jingyao thought Ro Ro was saying there was a wound here, but he lifted the clothes and found no blood. Just in case, he wanted to check. He put his hand on the chest, but found no obvious lumps or wounds. But he couldn't rule out internal injuries. He fumbled around, startled by Ro-Ro's worried words. Feng Jingyao blushed inexplicably. What he was doing seemed a bit strange. He decided to wait for the doctor to check. Feng Jingyao waved his hand casually. In Ro-Ro's eyes, he had driven the dirty thing away. The female assistant came to inform them that the doctor had arrived. The dirty thing shrank back into Yun's body. Feng Jingyao carried Yun in his arms princess style towards the doctor. Yun suddenly woke up and found himself in Feng Jingyao's arms. He didn't understand why they were so close. He attributed it all to a dream and fainted again. The doctor needed to examine Yun first. Ro-Ro sat on the sofa, very worried. Feng Jingyao told him to wait. The doctor would give Yun a full checkup. Feng Jingyao caught a glimpse of Ro-Ro's hesitation and asked if he had something to say. Ro-Ro stammered but didn't say it. Feng Jingyao suggested they go outside to talk quietly. Ro-Ro agreed. He wanted to pick Ro-Ro up and leave. But Ro-Ro jumped off the sofa first, leaving his hands hanging awkwardly. Ro-Ro told Feng Jingyao what had happened on the film set before. At first, Feng Jingyao didn't understand which uncle had fallen. After an explanation, he realized it was the stunt double. Ro-Ro told Feng Jingyao about seeing the dirty thing come out. Feng Jingyao wanted to know what the dirty thing was, but Ro-Ro couldn't describe it clearly at all. Feng Jingyao considered what the dirty thing could be. Just now, after Ro-Ro shouted, Ian had suddenly collapsed. The timing was too coincidental. He thought Ro-Ro saw something adults couldn't see, but he wondered if Ro-Ro could really see it. The female assistant came to inform Feng Jingyao that the doctor had finished the examination. The checkup results showed everything was normal. The doctor believed it was caused by fatigue. A prescription for some restorative medicine would be enough. Feng Jingyao told everyone to go rest. Ro-Ro, worried, wanted to hold Yun's hand. Feng Jingyao told him that Yun would be fine after some rest. He needed a rest too, so he would have energy tomorrow. That way, he could be the one to lecture Yun. Ro-Ro thought what he said made sense and nodded in agreement. While showering, the female assistant remembered Ro-Ro saying there was a tiger on her back. And she did indeed have a tiger tattoo on her back. But how did Ro-Ro know? Ro-Ro tried hard to sleep, but he just couldn't fall asleep. He wanted Yun to tell him a story. Feng Jingyao decided he would tell the story instead. But Ro-Ro insisted that Yun tell it. Feng Jingyao comforted him, saying Yun was resting. Ro-Ro reluctantly let him tell the story. Ro-Ro lay down and listened to Feng Jingyao tell him the story of Prince Yaya. He peacefully fell asleep during the story. Feng Jingyao turned off the light and lay down beside Ro-Ro. He extended one hand to Ro-Ro. With the other, he stroked Ro-Ro's head. Ro-Ro was sound asleep. Feng Jingyao mused that he had grown up. Ro-Ro suddenly let out a murmur. Feng Jingyao quickly lay back down and pretended to be asleep. He glanced at Ro-Ro and said good night in his heart. At 1 a.m., Feng Jingyao turned off his alarm. He tucked in Ro-Ro, who was sleeping with his limbs splayed out. He went over to Yun's side. Yun was sleeping uncomfortably. He reached out to feel Yun's forehead, determining that his temperature wasn't high. He was sweating, so Feng Jingyao wet a towel and wiped the sweat from Yun's head. Yun's tightly furrowed brow relaxed. Feng Jingyao picked up a book and sat in a chair, flipping through it. But after flipping through it for a while, he closed it. He couldn't focus on it at all. He picked up his phone, opened the photo album, and looked through the pictures he had taken of Yun and his son. A faint smile appeared on his face. Feng Jingyao didn't sleep all night, staying up to take care of Yun. Yun opened his eyes in the morning light. Feng Jingyao was having breakfast with Ro-Ro, planning to check on Yun after they finished. Yun's loud voice startled the two of them. Yun looked around for Ro-Ro. He had no idea what happened last night, why he had blacked out. He suspected he might have some rare and complicated illness. Ro-Ro ran lightly towards Yun. Yun immediately went over and gave him a bear hug. Ro-Ro wanted him to have shrimp dumplings. Yun was worried about last night. Feng Jingyao came over and told him not to worry. The doctor had checked and said it was just exhaustion. He'd be fine after resting for 2 days. If he was still worried, they could go to the hospital for a full checkup later. Yun felt it was unnecessary. He probably just hadn't slept well. Feng Jingyao told him to rest at home for 2 days and help Ro-Ro get used to living here. Yun didn't want to disturb Feng Jingyao here. But as soon as he stood up, he felt dizzy, scaring both Feng Jingyao and Ro Ro into telling him to rest properly. After arriving at the company, Feng Jingyao had his assistant look into the stunt double who had the accident on set. He made a phone call. Feng Mingfu's phone rang. The call was from Feng Jingyao. He wanted to ask Feng Mingfu about something regarding a person who was very important to him. Feng Jingyao told Feng Mingfu the whole story. Feng Mingfu told him to send the birth date and time, and also to bring the person over. Feng Mingfu hung up the phone and placed it on the table. He began performing movements, pushing his hands and lifting his legs. Each move was full of vigor. He then struck a beautiful golden rooster stance on one-leg pose, followed by several more handsome martial arts moves. His disciples saw him practicing his fist techniques and guessed that something good must have happened recently. Feng Mingfu heard them. He was preparing for his great-grandson, bringing a partner up the mountain. Seeing how happy he was, he needed to be in high spirits. The disciples wanted to advise him to take it easy, as he was around 100 years old after all. On the trending topics list, the hot search Lei Huan wanted had appeared, and it included Yun's name. After a great deal of marketing, it was being promoted everywhere. Passers-by thought this was a newcomer that Baixing Huangyu wanted to promote. Many people became fans because of Yun's looks, and the discussion was very heated. Yun let out a big sneeze. Ro was concerned about his health. He guessed it was just his fans missing him. Inside Baixing Huangyu, Bai Muyang placed Yun's file on the table, demanding that Lin Shi poach Yun. Lin Shi looked through Yun's file, analyzing that he didn't come from a professional acting school, had no decent work after 6 or 7 years since his debut, and had a one-dimensional screen image. Other than his looks, there was nothing special. Lin Shi wanted to know the reason or value in signing him. Bai Muyang believed that nothing was more valuable than a shocking piece of gossip about Feng Jingyao. Lin Shi wanted him to wipe that gloating expression off his face. Bai Muyang decided to support Xiangqing Entertainment and handed the matter over to Lin Shi to handle. Lin Shi warned him not to mess around. Bai Muyang asked that Ditskun. Feng Jingyao asked his assistant to briefly explain the matter of the stunt double. The assistant found that the stunt double hadn't signed a written contract. On the night of the incident, the stunt double had already finished work and had no more scenes. But at that time, Ro was crying and making a fuss on set, and Yun couldn't continue filming. The director made a last-minute decision to have the stunt double step in, which resulted in the safety incident. The stunt double is still not out of the critical period, and his family can't afford the medical expenses. Feng Jingyao instructed the assistant to have the stunt double transferred to the best hospital. He would cover all medical expenses and compensation. The assistant received the order and immediately set about handling it. Feng Jingyao called out to stop him, asking him to find the films Yun had acted in. The assistant was clearly in a difficult position. Feng Jingyao further demanded all the films. The assistant told the truth. He remembered the films Yun had starred in, but they were all hard to describe. Feng Mingfu was leisurely sipping tea. He thought for a moment, rubbing his hands in anticipation. He planned to check the marital compatibility of the two using their birth charts ahead of time. He took out Feng Jingyao's and Yun's birth dates and times. He closed his eyes, calmed his mind, and began to calculate their fortunes with his fingers. His disciples were very surprised to see this, because he hadn't personally performed a divination in a long time. Feng Mingfu thought it was only natural. He couldn't let other charlatan fortune tellers casually speculate on his great-grandson's fate. He would just take a little peek himself. Feng Mingfu picked up the calligraphy brush beside him. After a round of exquisite calculations, he discovered that their birth charts were extremely compatible. They were a match made in heaven. In the future, they would have many children and blessings, and their relationship would be everlasting. Feng Jingyao's fate was the best he had ever seen. He felt Yun's wouldn't be bad either, and decided to make an exception and read Yun's fate as well. However, as he was calculating, the sandalwood incense beside him suddenly snapped. Just like Yun's fate, a life destined for an early death. Moreover, Yun was supposed to have met his fate recently. Feng Mingfu then had a sudden realization as to why Yun fainted upon seeing the female assistant, Mo Jingtian. It's because his Xingyang energy is unusually strong, repelling evil spirits. He's even more yang than an ordinary man. If someone whose life is about to end gets close, they will naturally be affected by him. But Yun's life is short. Why is his marital destiny with my great-grandson long and happy? The answer lies somewhere inside Feng Jingyao's manor. Ro molded in super cute yaya. He showed it to Ian. Ian praised him for doing a good job. A maid brought over the baked cake. The father and son each took a piece. Ian felt strange. Even with proper sleep, his body was getting more and more tired. Ian was forcefully reciting his lines. The scene changes. In another scene, Ian was also acting with force. Feng Jingyao silently watched Ian's films. There was a knock on the door. Feng Jingyao quickly switched screens. The assistant came in to have him sign a report. Feng Jingyao signed his name. The assistant turned to get back to work. Feng Jingyao switched the channel back and continued watching the film. The assistant was about to close the door when he suddenly thought of something. He walked back in and heard Ian forcefully reciting lines. Those cheesy lines not only flustered the assistant. Feng Jingyao was also so embarrassed he didn't know what to do. The assistant immediately closed the door and fled the scene. Feng Jingyao watched Ian's confession scene, covering his face in embarrassment. Ro put on sunglasses and played with a toy airplane. He ran around Ian. Ian's phone suddenly rang. Zhang Jie called to tell him to look at the online hot search. Because he was trending, the company wanted him to come back immediately and to be careful to cover his face. After hanging up, Ro asked if he was going out. Ian wanted to take Ro with him. He didn't feel at ease leaving Ro here alone. A maid smiled and told him to go without worry, that they would take good care of Ro. Ian remembered that although Feng Jingyao was very domineering, he had never hurt Ro. It should be fine for him to go out for a while. Ian decided to leave Ro here. Ro would wait for him to come back to eat together. The father and son hugged happily. In the taxi, Ian opened his phone and discovered he was a hot search topic. And Baixing Huangyu had even responded. He thought some big shot had recommended him. Feng Jingyao, who was watching the film, suddenly sneezed. He couldn't help but suspect it was caused by dust. Ian arrived at Xiangqing Entertainment. People at the company were all discussing the hot search, mocking Zheng Lily's shameless behavior last time. It ended up being a joke. The person Baixing was looking for was clearly Ian. Many people at the company didn't know Ian, but quite a few wanted to see Zheng Lily become a laughingstock. Ian went to the office and asked Zhang Jie what was going on. He was still in a daze. Zhang Jie wasn't clear on the specifics either. When the people for Baixing suddenly came over, Zheng Lily couldn't sit still and ran right over. But they ended up specifically asking to see Ian. Zheng Lily was publicly humiliated. He believed Zheng Lily would definitely not take this line down. There would soon be unfavorable rumors about him in the company. There would be messages from those who were probing, curious, and jealous. In the short term, he had been pushed in the spotlight by Baixing. Ian promised he would keep a low profile. Zhang Jie prepared to take him to see Lei Huan. The gates of the manor were opened by a maid. Ro thought Ian was back and happily ran to greet him. But the one who came in was Feng Jingyao. He thought Ro was coming to welcome him and found him very cute. Feng Jingyao learned that Ian had gone out in the afternoon. Ro was worried Ian would get lost and not make it back, and that he would cry from hunger after dinner. Feng Jingyao asked Ro if he cries when he's hungry. Ro nodded. Feng Jingyao asked Ro if he wanted to go pick up Ian together. Due to a traffic jam, the two waited through a long red light in the car. Ro asked, "Are we there yet?" Ro asked many times along the way. Feng Jingyao comforted him, saying they would be there soon. Ro was clearly a little disappointed. Seeing him like this, Feng Jingyao told him that fried chicken was prepared for dinner. As soon as they picked up Ian, they would go home and eat fried chicken. Ro instantly cheered up, looking forward to the fried chicken that evening. After the meeting, Ian was patted on the shoulder by Lei Huan. Lei Huan encouraged him, saying to work hard and that he was very optimistic about his prospects. After the meeting, Zhang Jie told him that someone from Baixing had already come to connect. She would inform Yun of the specific time later. For now, he just had to go home and wait for the notification. Zhang Jie noticed that Ian didn't look well. She urged him to rest properly. Health management is the most important thing for an artist. She hoped he would look better the next time they met. Feng Jingyao brought Ro to the entrance of Xiangqing Entertainment. Feng Jingyao got out of the car first. He turned back, intending to carry Ro out. But Ro jumped out of the car by himself. Feng Jingyao's hands were left hanging awkwardly. In the restroom, Ian was looking at his phone. He didn't want things to remain so ambiguous with Feng Jingyao. There had to be an answer about Ro-Ro's identity. He called his old friend, AI Chi. AI Chi was getting his hair styled. Seeing his call, he picked up. Ian wanted to ask him for a favor. AI Chi agreed at once. After all, he would always help Ian. Ian asked him to book a doctor for a paternity test. Hearing this, AI Chi paused his styling. An assistant reminded him that the fan meeting was about to start. AI Chi silently waved his hand. AI Chi asked if he was the one getting the paternity test. Ian explained that he had a friend who had a child abroad, but now someone else suddenly told him the child wasn't his. AI Chi knew at once that Ian was making up a story and deliberately played along, asking more questions. AI Chi exposed his lie. Ian denied it in a fluster. AI Chi didn't press further. He told him to set a time and bring the person to collect a sample. Ian knew Feng Jingyao wouldn't go with him to get a sample. He would have to steal a sample from Feng Jingyao. AI Chi offered another method. Find a clinic to do an anonymous test. Ian knew this path wouldn't work either. He couldn't get a buccal swab either. The cleaning at home was too thorough. There wasn't a single strand of hair. Feng Jingyao didn't smoke either, so he couldn't get saliva. AI Chi was exasperated. Now there was only one last thing left. If he couldn't get it, the test couldn't be done. Ian immediately guaranteed he could get it. AI Chi said a word. Ian didn't understand. AI Chi explained it meant bodily fluids. Ian immediately and vehemently objected. That was impossible. AI Chi advised him to give up and just live with being cuckolded. AI Chi hung up, using the fan meeting as an excuse. Ian, blushing, wondered how on earth he was going to get a sample. Ro-Ro came looking for Ian and asked the front desk where he was. Because Ro-Ro was too short, the receptionist didn't notice who was speaking. Ro-Ro tried his best to raise his hand to get the receptionist's attention. Feng Jingyao sighed softly and picked Ro-Ro up from behind. Ro-Ro proactively hugged Feng Jingyao and said again that he was looking for Ian. The receptionist asked if he had an appointment. Ro-Ro didn't understand what an appointment was. The receptionist didn't have the heart to refuse a small child. Feng Jingyao took a business card from his pocket and handed it over. In the elevator, Ian was thinking about how to get the sample. Suddenly, a phantom image of Feng Jingyao appeared on the elevator doors, whispering seductively in Ian's ear. Ian was incredibly shy. As soon as the elevator doors opened, he rushed out. As he passed the front desk, he saw someone standing at the front desk who looked like Feng Jingyao. Ian thought it was a hallucination because he had been thinking about him. He needed to go back and sleep it off right away to calm his nerves. The receptionist didn't understand why all these important people were coming to find Ian. But Ro-Ro noticed Ian about to leave and called out to him. Ro-Ro jumped right out of Feng Jingyao's arms and pattered towards Ian. The receptionist wanted to ask Feng Jingyao, who was also leaving, to stay. People from the company asked the receptionist who she was trying to keep. Learning that it was Feng Jingyao himself who had come, everyone was shocked. Ian heard Ro-Ro's voice. He had just turned around when he was hit by the little troublemaker. Seeing Ro-Ro jump into his arms, Ian didn't know how he got here. Feng Jingyao cleared his throat to get Ian's attention. They had come to pick him up together. Ian's face instantly turned red. It wasn't a hallucination just now. It was the real person. Feng Jingyao urged him to hurry home, as Ro-Ro was hungry. So Ian picked up Ro-Ro and prepared to go home. This scene led the onlookers to speculate about their relationship. Lei Huan and Zheng Lili arrived late, only to find that Feng Jingyao was not at the front desk. The receptionist told them Feng Jingyao was there to find someone. Lei Huan thought he was there for Zheng Lili, but the receptionist said he was looking for Ian and that they had already met. Lei Huan couldn't believe it. Another big shot looking for Ian. Zheng Lili secretly resented Ian for constantly stealing her opportunities. How could Ian possibly compare to her? After returning to the manor, Ro-Ro got to eat the fried chicken he had been longing for. Ian was still thinking about the sample, believing hair would be the easiest to get. He just had to sneak into his room before the bathroom was cleaned. Ro-Ro had his eye on the braised pork on the table. Ian would naturally satisfy him. 2 pairs of chopsticks landed on the same piece of meat. The two looked at each other, then simultaneously let go of the chopsticks. Ro-Ro wondered why he hadn't gotten to meat yet. The 2 men quickly tried to put meat in his bowl, their chopsticks touching again. Ian suddenly thought there might be saliva on the chopsticks. Could this be used as a sample? Feng Jingyao withdrew his chopsticks and asked the father and son if they wanted to go mountain climbing with him on the weekend to meet someone. Ro-Ro was very happy to be out mountain climbing curious about everything around him. Feng Jingyao followed easily behind Ro, while Yun felt completely drained. Ro looked back and noticed Yun, thinking he was climbing very slowly. He told him to hurry up. Ian hadn't expected to be so out of shape that he couldn't even keep up with Ro. Feng Jingyao called out to Mo Jingtian, who was walking at the very front, wanted to stop and wait for Ian. Ian didn't want them to wait. He quickened his pace to catch up, but didn't notice that he stepped on some moss. His foot slipped, and he stumbled, falling forward. This scene gave Feng Jingyao a fright. The other two were also very worried about Ian. Ian was worried he wouldn't be able to protect his face and would lose his job. He didn't notice Feng Jingyao running towards him. He was still wondering if he would be criticized after getting plastic surgery. A loud thud startled the birds in the trees. Ro and Mo Jingtian watched the scene with concern. Ian fell hard and it hurt. He worried if his nose was broken. Suddenly, he noticed the sensation was wrong. Feng Jingyao coughed. Ian looked up. He saw Feng Jingyao pinning him underneath, his own hand resting on his abs. The two locked eyes and said nothing. Mo Jingtian and Ro hurried over. Feng Jingyao asked if Yun's nose was okay. Yun, blushing with a bloody nose, forced himself to explain that he was fine. Feng Jingyao told Mo Jingtian to find cotton swabs and styptic powder. Ian noticed Feng Jingyao's face was very close to his, and Feng Jingyao's expression was very serious. He let Feng Jingyao examine his nose, secretly worrying that it was really broken. Feng Jingyao watched Ian close his eyes and let him check, a hint of shyness appearing on his face. Feng Jingyao confirmed that the bridge of his nose was fine. It was just a soft tissue contusion. Ian plugged his nose and said he could keep walking. Ro was amused by his strange voice. Mo Jingtian offered to carry Ian on her back. Ian was astonished. Did he look so weak that he needed a girl to carry him up the mountain? Feng Jingyao recalled the past, knowing Ian was completely unaware of Mo Jingtian's strength. Ian refused Mo Jingtian's kind offer. Feng Jingyao handed Ro to Mo Jingtian, then put an arm around Ian to help him walk. Mo Jingtian walked ahead, carrying Ro. Ian was being led by the hand by Feng Jingyao, and his face couldn't help but turn red, causing him to not pay attention to the moss under his feet, slipping again and about to fall. Feng Jingyao caught him in time, telling him to be careful. He repeatedly agreed. Feng Jingyao grabbed his hand and told him to hang on. They were almost there. Ian wondered what was up with Feng Jingyao. One moment he's unreasonable, the next he's so gentle. Could he be trying to lull him with sugar-coated bullets? He absolutely wouldn't fall for it. The two holding hands both had uncomfortable expressions. The group arrived in front of Danyangwan. Feng Mingfu greeted them again. He looked at Ro with delight. A full forehead, thick earlobes, a round face, a full chin, broad shoulders, and a fleshy belly. It's a rare and auspicious physiognomy. He rubbed his hands, praising that when Ro grew up, he would surely have both fortune and prosperity. Although Ro didn't understand, he knew Feng Mingfu was praising him. Feng Mingfu asked for details about Ro, then asked Mo Jingtian where she got such a cute child. Mo Jingtian told him to wait for Feng Jingyao to explain. Ian apologized to Feng Jingyao, who was coming up the mountain path. In the end, he still had someone carry him up, because his foot was sprained during the second slip. Ian looked at the person in front of him, knowing this was a good opportunity. He plucked a hair from Feng Jingyao's head and put it in his pocket. Feng Jingyao sensed something was off and looked back. Ian lied that it was a bug. He was secretly delighted. If he had known it was this easy, he should have fallen sooner. Feng Mingfu was getting a little impatient. At this moment, Ro noticed the two people coming up the mountain. Feng Mingfu was still concerned about Mo Jingtian's marital affairs. Ro got down and went to find Ian and the other. Ian, nursing his foot, praised Ro, saying he was so amazing that he couldn't even catch up. Ro also seriously praised Ian in return. Feng Jingyao greeted Feng Mingfu. He introduced Ian to Feng Mingfu. Feng Mingfu carefully sized up Ian. He could see that Ian had the face of someone doomed to die, yet was alive and well. He suddenly realized he must have gotten something wrong. This Ian person was actually a man, and a handsome young man at that. Then what was that many children and blessings he had calculated earlier? Feng Jingyao wanted to go ice Ian's ankle. Feng Mingfu went to find him, having something to discuss. Mo Jingtian was arranged to come and apply ice to Ian's ankle. She told Ian not to worry, that the soft tissue contusion would heal quickly. Ian told Mo Jingtian not to be so polite. Ro was fidgeting at the side, wanting to go to the restroom. Mo Jingtian immediately wanted to take him to the restroom to the right of the courtyard gate. But Ro dashed off in a hurry. Ro thought he could tell left from right, but after leaving the courtyard gate, he still went left. He walked through the unfamiliar scenery, thinking Mo Jingtian had lied to him. There was no restroom on the right at all. Inside the room, Feng Mingfu spoke up. He had heard that Feng Jingyao was engaged. Outside, Ro heard the conversation. Distracted, he shivered and couldn't hold it in, wetting his pants. Ro, realizing he had wet his pants, immediately burst into tears. The crying startled Feng Jingyao inside the room. Feng Jingyao lost his grip on the cup in his hand, and it fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. Ro shifted his bottom uncomfortably, explaining that he didn't wet his pants on purpose. Ian told him not to run off randomly next time. Ro thought Mo Jingtian had lied. Ian told him that he had just mixed up left and right. Ro felt a little guilty, not expecting it was his own fault. The father and son heard someone knocking on the door. Feng Jingyao asked if they were done changing his pants. He was waiting at the courtyard entrance to take them to lunch. Feng Jingyao heard the sounds of pants being changed inside. He turned and walked towards the courtyard entrance. Inside, Ro asked Ian what Ding Hun was, roughly repeating what he had heard. Ian thought carefully and realized Ro was talking about an engagement. Ro also remembered that was what he had heard. Ian asked who he heard it from. Ro said it was Feng Mingfu, whom he had met that morning. He had wet himself after hearing those two words. Ian looked up, thinking that Feng Jingyao really was a bastard, inexplicably snatching his son, and now inexplicably wanting to find a stepmother for Ro. Feng Jingyao really had no good intentions. Ian wanted to take Ro down the mountain immediately. Although Ro was very hungry, he still agreed. Ian cursed Feng Jingyao in his heart. He was still around, yet he was already thinking of finding a stepmother for Ro. Regardless of the paternity test results, he wouldn't believe a single word from Feng Jingyao from now on. Ro sensed something and turned his head, seeing red smoke swirling around Iyun, who was packing his bags. Iyun believed that the liar, Feng Jingyao, was just trying to lull him into a false sense of security, then snatch Ro away and hand the poor child over to a vicious stepmother to be abused. Ro saw the red smoke around Iyun getting worse and worse. He quickly cried out for help. Feng Jingyao heard the cries for help from inside the room. He quickly pushed the door open and went in to check on the situation. Ro pointed at Iyun for him to see. Iyun was in a very bad state. At this moment, Iyun's face was ashen, and he was muttering something under his breath. Feng Jingyao walked over and touched his shoulder, asking if he was all right. Iyun turned his head and saw Feng Jingyao, the very person he had just been muttering about. He immediately struggled violently to break free from Feng Jingyao's hand, wanting to angrily curse him for being a liar. But his heart suddenly clenched in pain. His body fell directly to the side. Feng Jingyao caught him and found that he had fainted. He immediately decided to go find Feng Mingfu. He told Ro to follow him. Ian was placed on the bed. Feng Mingfu took his pulse and determined it was caused by extreme anger affecting his heart. Feng Jingyao's expression was not good. Ro was also very worried about Iyun. Feng Mingfu secretly thought that this was a case of evil energy entering the body. It was Iyun's fate. He was indeed on his last legs. Feng Jingyao wanted to send Iyun to the hospital. Feng Mingfu stopped him. Making such a trip might just make Iyun's condition worse. Through the crack in the door, Feng Jingyao glanced inside the room and asked Feng Mingfu what was wrong with Iyun. He had fainted suddenly before as well. Feng Mingfu asked him in return if he believed that Iyun was possessed, that this was his fate. Although they all believed in science, some things couldn't be explained by science. If he went to the hospital for a checkup, they would only find that Iyun was physically weak and send him off with some tonics. But Iyun was clearly on the verge of death. Feng Jingyao hadn't expected it to be this serious. Feng Mingfu sighed. Death was in Iyun's fate. He should have died in the robbery. The fact that he was still alive, he didn't know if it was a good or bad thing. Looking at the current situation, as long as Iyun didn't die, his health would continue to deteriorate. He would be plagued by bad luck and endless disasters. There was one method now, but he didn't know if it would work. Before explaining, Feng Mingfu first asked an important question. What exactly was the relationship between Feng Jingyao and Yiyun? Feng Jingyao was silent for a moment, then told Feng Mingfu Yiyun was his child's other father. Feng Mingfu repeated this sentence. He tried his best to understand it, complaining about young people not considering an old man's ability to accept things. Feng Jingyao said he owed Yiyun a lot. He would do his best to compensate him and explain everything clearly later. Feng Mingfu silently grumbled about Feng Jingyao, telling him not to torture an old man's curiosity. Feng Jingyao introduced Ro as Feng Mingfu's great-great-grandson. Feng Mingfu was so shocked by this news that he was speechless. It was clear that he was the one who needed emergency aid now. But he actually accepted this fact. The two suddenly heard a loud rumbling sound. It was Ro's stomach growling with hunger. Feng Mingfu told Feng Jingyao to take Ro to eat first. Ro held his spoon, but didn't move for a long time. He had no appetite at all. Feng Jingyao told him to eat properly. Only after eating his fill would he have the strength to see Yiyun. And as long as he ate, Feng Mingfu would find a way to help Yiyun recover. Ro perked up and immediately started stuffing food into his mouth. Watching Ro trying so hard to eat, Feng Mingfu's heart ached as he stroked his head. After the meal, Feng Mingfu took out a pair of scissors and cut a lock of Feng Jingyao's hair. He placed the hair on a prepared talisman paper and added some granules. Ro watched Feng Mingfu's actions with curiosity. Feng Mingfu used these to make a protective talisman. He actually wasn't sure if it would work on someone half dead. Its effectiveness would depend on how deep the fate between Yiyun and Feng Jingyao was, whether their fortunes could converge, allowing him to share a sliver of vitality. Ro scratched his own hair, wanting Feng Mingfu to make a few more. Feng Mingfu placed the talisman on Yiyun's chest. He placed his hand on his forehead and chanted a string of incantations. Ro suddenly noticed that Yiyun's forehead began to glow. A red thread also appeared from the talisman. Ro touched the red thread. Then he grabbed one end of the red thread. Feng Mingfu was taken aback. He glanced sideways and saw the red thread writhing in Ro's hand. He was very surprised that Ro could see the red thread. He had cultivated for so many years and could only sense it, yet Ro could see and touch it. The red thread broke free from Ro's hand. It bowed to Ro in apology. It had mistaken him for someone else. Under Ro's puzzled gaze, the red thread shot towards the unsuspecting Feng Jingyao, piercing straight into his heart. Feng Jingyao only felt something clutch at his heart. But could this really make Yiyun better? Ro happily exclaimed that the thread was connected. Feng Mingfu confirmed with Ro if it was really connected. After getting an affirmative answer, Feng Mingfu determined that Ro was no ordinary child. He could really see it. He was very curious what the red thread looked and felt like. Ro told him it looked pink and shiny and was glowing, but he didn't know what it felt like to touch. It was as if he could touch it, but also couldn't. Ro pulled the red thread back and forth. Feng Mingfu asked Feng Jingyao if he felt any pulling sensation. Feng Jingyao didn't feel anything. Ro was curious about the talisman on Yiyun's body and raised his hand to touch it. Feng Mingfu stopped him, telling Ro that he must not touch the talisman. Ro didn't understand why. Feng Mingfu explained that it was exclusively for Yiyun. If anyone else touched it, it would lose its effectiveness. Feng Jingyao was curious about what this talisman was. Feng Mingfu cleared his throat. It was a type of marriage talisman. He didn't want to expose the fact that he had divined their marriage fate in advance. Feng Jingyao didn't understand why a marriage talisman could save someone. Feng Mingfu stated that this wasn't about saving a life. He couldn't defy heaven and change fate, but the two of them shared an unbreakable bond in their destiny. This could buy him more time to think. It was the best method he could think of at the moment. Feng Jingyao asked him what the marriage talisman did. Feng Mingfu told him that its main function was to use the talisman as a medium to share his vitality with Yiyun. However, it was hard to say if Yiyun could receive it, because only two people who were truly fated could make this work. Feng Mingfu didn't mention the side effect, that Feng Jingyao would unconsciously fall in love with the person wearing the talisman. Feng Mingfu told Feng Jingyao not to be pessimistic. As long as one is alive, variables can always be encountered. He then instructed him to inform Yiyun of some matters once he woke up. Ro also promised he wouldn't touch the talisman. Feng Mingfu suddenly remembered something else and told Feng Jingyao to call off the engagement. Feng Jingyao explained that the old master had made the decision on his own. This made Feng Mingfu very angry. The old master clearly hadn't learned his lesson. Feng Mingfu didn't explicitly mention what happened before, but instead turned and went back into the room to meditate. Feng Jingyao's hand touched the side of Yi Yun's face. His whole body also moved closer to Yi Yun. Yi Yun frowned. This was the scene he saw when he opened his eyes. He didn't react at first. By the time he was fully awake, the two of them were already very close. The sky outside had darkened. The two, very close to each other, met each other's gaze, then tacitly looked away. Ian felt his head was very dizzy. Looking down, he saw Feng Jingyao putting the talisman on him, but he was clumsy and couldn't tie the knot properly. Even when it was tied, it was twisted. Ian didn't know why he was wearing a talisman. Feng Jingyao remembered Feng Mingfu's explanation and guiltily said it was to keep him safe. Ian didn't expect that in the dark. Feng Jingyao was just trying to put a talisman on him. A sharp pain suddenly shot through his head. Feng Jingyao was very concerned about him. He realized his memory had blanked out again, and his expression became terrified. Feng Jingyao comforted him, saying it was just because climbing the mountain was too exhausting, caused by a long period of inactivity. Ian didn't quite believe him, insisting that he had a terminal illness. After all, no one faints twice in a row. Feng Jingyao retorted, what good would it do to lie to him? Acting like this would only scare the child. At the mention of the child, Yun became concerned about Roro's safety. Not feeling Roro beside him, he clutched Feng Jingyao's clothes and asked repeatedly. Feng Jingyao told him not to worry. Roro had gone to meditate with Feng Mingfu. What Ian thought was the middle of the night was actually only 7 or 8 o'clock. Ian hadn't expected to be unconscious for so long. Feng Jingyao turned on the light. He had brought some food for Ian. He placed the food container on the small table. Ian took a bite of the congee and stuffed it into his mouth in large mouthfuls. Feng Jingyao told him not to just drink the congee, but to eat some pastries, or he would get hungry quickly at night. Ian took the pastry he handed over and noticed he was staring at him. At this moment, Feng Jingyao was focused, handsome, and charming. Meanwhile, Ian himself had messy hair and was eating ungracefully. Feng Jingyao told him to eat slower, that no one was going to fight him for it. Ian noticed Feng Jingyao's hand resting on his knee. He reflected on why he had suddenly gotten so angry earlier. He didn't used to have such a temper. Now, he couldn't suppress his anger at all. He also wanted to know if Feng Jingyao was engaged. Feng Jingyao helped him clean up the finished food container. Ian really wanted to know about the engagement. He considered whether to ask directly or indirectly. But were they close enough to ask about private matters? He couldn't hold it in and wanted to ask directly. But as he opened his mouth, Feng Jingyao was reminding him about the talisman, not to take it off and not to let others touch it. Ian remembered that Feng Jingyao had just touched the talisman. Feng Jingyao explained that it was except for the two of them. He had asked for it for him, so of course he could touch it. No one else, including Roro, could. After saying that, Feng Jingyao took him to pick up Roro. Feng Mingfu was teaching Roro to meditate, telling him to clear his mind of distracting thoughts, empty his mind, and regulate his breathing. After sitting quietly like this for a while, both of them fell asleep. The assistant received a phone call. He said he would inform Feng Jingyao as soon as possible and told the other party to investigate first. Yun and Feng Jingyao were speechless, looking at the scene before them. Ian thought they were asleep. Feng Jingyao insisted they were meditating. Ian silently grumbled, telling him not to lie with his eyes wide open. Actually, Feng Jingyao had asked before, but Feng Mingfu refused to admit he had fallen asleep. Ian thought that sleeping in this position was bad for Roro's body and wanted to carry him to the bed. Feng Jingyao held his shoulder and took out his phone to record a video, to prevent Feng Mingfu from denying it later. The door was pushed open. The two sleeping figures were completely unaware. Yun and Feng Jingyao wanted to get the two to go to bed. The two of them jolted awake and pretentiously started meditating. Feng Jingyao showed Feng Mingfu the video he had just taken. The two of them refused to admit they were sleeping, complaining that they had interrupted their meditation. Yun and Feng Jingyao showed expressions of disbelief in unison. They ignored Feng Mingfu's excuses and sent them back to their rooms to rest. The next day, everyone was gathered around the table chatting. Roro was playing with the red thread. He was enthusiastically playing cat's cradle with it. When he got tired of it, he let it go out of boredom. He noticed the jade pendant on Feng Mingfu's waist was flashing and curiously asked him what it was. Feng Mingfu explained that it was a jade pendant passed down from his ancestors. Ro really wanted to touch it. Feng Mingfu praised Ro for having good taste, took off the pendant, and handed it to him. Ro looked at the jade pendant and exclaimed how beautiful it was. He also told Feng Mingfu about the flashing. Feng Jingyao asked Feng Mingfu about the pendant's origin. Feng Mingfu told him that while the pendant couldn't be called a family heirloom to ward off evil, it was extremely precious. Most of the old family heirlooms were lost. Only a few pieces remained. The jade pendant was one of them, at least 1,000 years old. Transparent, spiritual energy emerged from the jade pendant. Ro kept poking the pendant. The spiritual energy revealed more and more of its form, finally floating above the pendant. Ro grabbed the spiritual energy, pulling it completely out of the pendant. The pendant's glow immediately dimmed. With a cracking sound, a fissure appeared. Feng Mingfu was still calling for them to look at the energy inside, but the pendant shattered into pieces in his hand. The spiritual energy struggled ceaselessly in Ro's hand. Ro wanted it to be quiet. The adults were all immersed in the shock of the shattered pendant. Ro noticed the pendant turning to dust in Feng Mingfu's hand. He glanced guiltily at Feng Mingfu, secretly hid the spiritual energy in his hand, jumped to the ground without a word, and scurried back. Feng Jingyao thought it was because of its old age. Feng Mingfu cursed at him for talking nonsense. The others didn't dare to speak in this situation. Feng Mingfu could no longer feel the pendant's energy now. It was as if all the spiritual energy had been drained in an instant. Such an incredible thing had never happened before. He had to figure out if his ancestors were trying to tell him something. Feng Mingfu prepared to go to the study to consult the ancient texts, telling them to do whatever they needed to do. Yun and his son returned to their room. Ian told Ro to organize his backpack first. Ro held the hand with the spiritual energy behind his back. Seeing that Ian was no longer paying attention to him, he immediately turned to observe the spiritual energy. He played with the spiritual energy in his hand, completely unaware that Ian had come up behind him. Ian asked him what he was playing with. Ro immediately hid the spiritual energy behind his back again, explaining that he was packing his backpack. Under Ian's gaze, Ro didn't dare to move. Ian knew that this behavior meant Ro had done something wrong, so he asked what he was hiding behind his back. Ian said he was very curious and asked Ro to show him secretly. Ro told him not to tell Feng Mingfu. Ian was worried that Ro had really taken something he shouldn't have. Ro placed the spiritual energy in Ian's hand. Ian couldn't see the spiritual energy and didn't know what Ro had taken. Ro saw the spiritual energy squirming in Ian's hand and told him to grab it quickly or it would run away. Ian subconsciously clenched his fingers. The spiritual energy glowed and burst in his palm. Countless fine threads emerged and all drilled into Ian's body. Ian didn't know what happened. He only felt refreshed and invigorated. Ro discovered that Shiny was gone. Ian asked him what Shiny was. Ro couldn't explain it at all. The next day, the group left Danyangwan. Ro was worried about Ian's health, but Ian only felt full of energy. Feng Mingfu had learned about his physical condition earlier and wanted to remind him of a few things. He told him to maintain a calm state of mind in the future, eat a light diet, and avoid extreme joy or sorrow. Feng Mingfu rattled off a whole bunch of instructions. The most important point was to ask Ian to be more restrained. Ian didn't understand what Feng Mingfu wanted him to be restrained about. Feng Mingfu had said his piece and told them to hurry down the mountain. At this time, the assistant still couldn't get through to Feng Jingyao's phone. He let out a dissatisfied TSK. After returning to Xiangxing Entertainment, Ian learned about the contract termination fee. It turned out Baixing had been trying to poach him these past 2 days. Baixing was willing to pay Ian's termination fee. Ian thought Baixing had made a mistake. Zhang Yesiget. Baixing wasn't playing house. They directly told Lei Huan to name his price and release the person. Zhang Jie asked him why his phone had been unreachable for the past few days. Ian explained that he had gone to the mountains. Zhang Jie then asked for his opinion, whether he was willing to be poached. Ian was a little hesitant. Although he wanted to go, there were other issues. Zhang Jie stared at him for a while and understood Ian's choice. His contract with Xiangxing Entertainment was about to expire, and she already felt guilty towards him. Besides, Ian wasn't young anymore, and people should aim higher, so he needed to make a decisive decision. Ian thought about it carefully and finally decided to sign with Baixing Huangyu. Lei Huan didn't agree to let Yun go. It was rare to find such a promising talent, and he was unwilling to just hand him over. Luo Shui reminded him. He didn't know what Yun would think of Baixing. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If it were Zheng Lili, he wouldn't even consider it. Lei Huan was confident that Zheng Lili wouldn't do that. Luo Shui told him to use his brain. Zheng Lili wouldn't disregard her future for a bit of sentiment. Yun would definitely have to be handed over, but the terms needed to be negotiated carefully. Lei Huan decided to listen to his wife. Zheng Lili, who was eavesdropping outside the door, couldn't believe this fact. She was clearly the company's pillar. Zheng Lili pushed open the door to practice room number 2. The resting trainees saw her. One of them opened their mouth to mock her. The whole company knew that Baixing came for Yun. Zheng Lili angrily told them to get out. The trainees quickly left the practice room. Zheng Lili resented that even a newcomer dared to be arrogant in front of her. She looked at herself in the mirror. In the mirror, she seemed to see when she first joined the company, Yun comforting her. Others were just jealous, telling her to persevere. She would definitely succeed. She then saw the scene of sharing her joy with Yun when she passed an audition. Later, her resources got better and better, and she gradually became a star in the limelight. Yun came to congratulate her on her success, but was ruthlessly ignored by her, because those days of failure were her greatest shame. Zheng Lili didn't understand why the incompetent Yun would come forward. Couldn't he just watch from a distance like before? But since he was intentionally blocking her path, he shouldn't blame her for being ruthless. She sent some dirt on him to Qinxing Entertainment. The assistant informed Feng Jingyao that something had happened. Feng Jingyao asked him to elaborate. Unexpectedly, there was a problem with Yun's fertilized egg. Feng Jingyao asked him why he didn't say so earlier. The assistant said he hadn't been able to reach him by phone for the past 2 days. Feng Jingyao wanted to know the details. The assistant found out that the fertilized egg Feng Jingyao had stored under Yun's name in the past was now inexplicably missing. According to the records, it was retrieved by the person himself. But Yun hadn't been abroad recently, so it was likely a deliberate theft. Feng Jingyao had stored it under Yun's name at the time. In principle, no one other than Yun himself could retrieve it. To be able to impersonate Yun without being discovered by the institution, the thief was no simple person. They probably discovered something and were targeting him. He had to go there himself. Feng Jingyao arranged for Mo Jingtian to take over for a while and ordered his assistant to have several people protect Yun and report on a situation promptly. Yun handed Feng Jingyao's hair to Ai Chi. Ai Chi asked if he had thought it through. Many families are broken because of secret paternity tests. He had to be prepared for the worst. Yun insisted on figuring out what was going on. Ai Chi was very annoyed. Yun had indeed been lying to him before. He questioned why Yun would doubt Ro. Yun couldn't explain it clearly in a short time. In short, he was entrusting it to Ai Chi. Ai Chi asked him why he didn't go to Big Brother AIU himself. Yun made an excuse about not wanting to disturb him. Ai Chi suddenly started gossiping about Baixing poaching Yun. Yun said that as long as Baixing was willing to give him a chance, he would definitely work hard. Ai Chi had always believed that Yun would be discovered one day. If it weren't for his current boss being too good to him, he would also want to join Baixing. When Yun returned home, Ro was there to greet him, and Feng Jingyao was surprisingly there too. Yun had a feeling of coming home and was very happy. Feng Jingyao gave Ro a piece of meat, then gave a piece to Yun. Yun thanked him, feeling a bit overwhelmed by the favor. Feng Jingyao said that in a couple of days, he needed to go on a business trip for a while. Yun silently grumbled. Why was he explaining his business trip so clearly to him? Ro asked him where he was going and for how long. Feng Jingyao only said it would be quick and that he would bring back a gift for Ro. Yun suddenly thought, if he got the test results, what should be his next step? Bai Muyang asked if the negotiations with Xiangqing were settled. Lin Shi reported that besides the termination fee, they also demanded acceptable resources as an additional condition. Bai Muyang told him to prepare a basic contract for Yun and just randomly assign an agent to him. Lin Shi didn't understand. Weren't they trying to heavily promote the person they had gone to such lengths to poach? Before Bai Muyang could answer, his phone pinged. It was a Gossip News push notification. He immediately clicked on it and found that the person in the photo was Yun. Although the person next to him was pixelated, he could still recognize it was Feng Jingyao. Linsher speculated that the photo was taken by someone inside Xiangqing and wanted to investigate. But Myong directly told him not to. It was definitely an insider causing trouble. Linsher was worried that Feng Jingyao would be identified, which would affect him. And this was what was frustrating by Myong. Those two looked like a couple. With such news breaking, should he really blacklist Yun or just pretend to? The internet was also buzzing with discussions about this gossip. People inside Xiangqing also saw it. Zheng Lily, who was nearby, deliberately brought it up. So Ian was climbing the ladder this way. The people flattering her chimed in, saying Ian was using crooked means. Zheng Lily said that heaven has eyes, bringing fairness back to the industry. In just a few words, Baixing became a company that picks up smelly rocks. Zheng Lily then told them to say less, maintaining her persona of being pure and above it all. Luo Shui slammed the table in anger, not knowing who did this evil deed. Lei Huan felt it wasn't that serious. Luo Shui reminded him that Baixing would use this as an excuse to back out of everything they had agreed on. The person who leaked this was vicious. Not only would they lose a promising artist, but the company would also lose the opportunity to connect with Baixing. This news breaking out was not good for the company or Yun. Luo Shui demanded to see the surveillance footage from that day. She wanted to see who was causing trouble. Luo Shui also told Zhang Jie not to inform Yun. They would resolve it as quickly as possible. In front of the airport's VIP lane, Feng Jingyao was preparing to board. Yun and Ro Ro, fully disguised, came to see him off. Ro Ro was very reluctant to see him go and asked if he could not go. Feng Jingyao actually seriously considered this possibility. Ian told Ro Ro not to be willful. That work was very important. Ro Ro remembered he had something to give him. Ro Ro gave Feng Jingyao a big handful of candy, then gave him all the candy. Since he took the candy, he had to come back early as promised. Feng Jingyao told them to tell Mo Jingtian if they needed anything and reminded them to be careful on their way back. After boarding, Feng Jingyao looked at the candy in his hand. The broadcast announced that the plane was about to take off. He turned off his phone. This resulted in Bai Muyang being unable to reach him. Bai Muyang decided to let the Xiangqing side handle it first, but Feng Jingyao was not to appear in the news. A group of researchers were gathered, discussing the gossip about Yun. AIU coughed behind them. The researchers quickly greeted him. The researcher who was supposed to get the report for AI, Chi, immediately handed it to him. AIU took the report and left. The researchers then breathed a sigh of relief. One of them showed Yun's photo. Yun's name was all over the trending topics. AIU heard the researchers mention Yun. Vaguely, keywords like sugar daddy and kept reached him. He didn't know if this was the Yun he knew. Maybe he had misheard. A courier knocked on the door. He was here to pick up a package. AIU handed over the report in his hand. The courier took the report for the sample, promising it would be delivered the next day. AIU suddenly called out to the courier who was about to leave. He decided to deliver it himself. Ian arrived at the reserved private room in the restaurant. He tidied up his appearance at the door, opened it, and apologized to AIU for being late. After Ian sat down, AIU took out the report. Ian couldn't help but sneak a peek at it. AIU handed the report to him. Ian took it and was about to break the seal, but AIU stopped him, telling him to think it over before opening it. Ian noticed AIU's hand and inexplicably blushed a little. AIU didn't want the result to affect his current mood, so he wanted him to open it after he got back. Ian once again felt AIU's consistent gentleness and rationality. AIU asked him how he had been recently, very concerned about the online comments. Ian put the report away and said he was doing fine recently. Under AIU's persistent questioning, Ian mentioned that Baixing wanted to poach him. AIU asked him if he had someone he liked. Ian suddenly thought of Feng Jingyao's face and subconsciously denied it to AIU. But AIU saw the signs on his face. He was immediately relieved. It was obvious he had been overthinking. AIU handed his phone to Ian. On it was the leaked news. Ian was secretly glad that Ro Ro wasn't photographed, but verbally, he said it was fake. AIU reminded him that if fake news spreads enough, it becomes real news. Ian knew he couldn't speak out now. He would let his agency's PR handle it, but he knew it was someone from Xiangqing who did it. Someone was framing him. After returning to the manor, Ian looked at the report in his hand. Ro Ro was urging him to tell him a story. Ro Ro was rolling around on the bed. Ian said he would be right there. He closed his eyes and quieted down. Thinking of cutting the Gordian knot, he tore open the seal. Ro Ro was bored on the bed, complaining that Ian still hadn't come over. Ian appeared before him, ready to continue the story from last time. Ian planted a kiss on the sleeping Ro-Ro's forehead. Looking at Ro-Ro's adorable sleeping face, he expressed his love for him in his heart. In a bathroom trash can, the torn-up report showed the test results were consistent with the one Feng Jingyao had provided before. Ian found a small notebook to list his advantages. The biggest advantage was that he had raised Ro-Ro since he was a baby, and their bond was very deep. He should have been his child in the first place, and he shouldn't have to bear the consequences of the foreign institution's mistake. Ian was puzzled why the test provided when registering the household in the country was different from this result. He couldn't be so unlucky as to have it mistaken twice in a row, could he? He didn't understand why Feng Jingyao would want a child a few years ago when he already has a fiancée now. This would obviously lead to marital discord. In terms of money, he couldn't compare to Feng Jingyao. In terms of power, Feng Jingyao could be said to be overwhelmingly powerful. It seemed that only in the aspect of love did he have the advantage of time. But love holds no advantage in the eyes of the law. And Ro-Ro and Feng Jingyao were indeed father and son. So from a legal standpoint, he had no chance of winning. What on earth should he do? After arriving at his destination, Feng Jingyao turned on his phone. It was the middle of the night back home. He worried if Yun and his son were eating and sleeping well. Thinking of this, Feng Jingyao smiled and sent Yun a message saying he had arrived safely. Yun's phone, which was placed aside, rang. He opened it and saw that Feng Jingyao had even sent him a sticker. Ian didn't expect Feng Jingyao to use stickers. His hand, about to reply immediately, suddenly stopped. He had promised Feng Mingfu not to stay up late. Replying now would be getting caught red-handed. Feng Jingyao noticed the typing indicator, but he didn't receive a message from Yun even by the time he got in the car. He thought for a moment and sent another message. Ian was startled by the message. Seeing Feng Jingyao ask if he was still awake, he fumbled to type and then delete his words. This caused Feng Jingyao to see the typing indicator appear and disappear. He didn't know if Yun was asleep or not. Feng Jingyao sent him another message, telling him to use incense to help him sleep. Ian felt he was worrying for nothing. Perhaps Feng Jingyao wasn't what he thought. They probably wouldn't end up facing each other in court, but would find a stable point in their relationship. But he couldn't compare to Feng Jingyao in many aspects. To find a balance, he had to work hard. Finally, Feng Jingyao received Yun's reply. He smiled as he looked out the car window. The receptionist apologized to Luo Shui. He did indeed take the photo, but he didn't post it online. Luo Shui asked him who he sent the photo to. The receptionist said he had sent it to a small group chat for gossip. Luo Shui reminded him that this matter had a huge impact on the company and hoped he would cooperate willingly. The receptionist quickly handed the phone to Luo Shui. Luo Shui looked through it and returned the phone to him, telling him to delete the original footage. By now, Luo Shui already knew who had done this. Lei Huan and Zhang Jie were curious who it was. Luo Shui was certain that Zheng Lili did it. Lei Huan thought it was impossible, but was glared back at by Luo Shui. Luo Shui had just noticed that there was only one person in that group chat. Zheng Lili's new assistant had a conflict of interest with Yun, so even if it was a misunderstanding, they had to investigate to find out. Luo Shui asked Lei Huan if that was really the case, who would he protect then? Xianqing Entertainment's official account posted a statement. Luo Shui was very angry. Lei Huan had actually just posted a statement to settle the matter. Lei Huan also felt wronged. Ian definitely wouldn't stay at Xianqing. Zheng Lili was their priority. Fighting for resources with Baixing was also for her. Luo Shui was silenced by his words. Bai Muyang saw the statement. He knew that these statements were the most useless things. It seemed that in the end, he would have to take action himself. Lin Shi believed the best way was to forcibly delete the false statements. Bai Muyang cursed a bunch of useless things. Feng Jingyao suddenly received a call. Bai Muyang had finally contacted him, telling him he had missed a good show. The person he wanted to blacklist before was now being blasted online. Bai Muyang also planned to add fuel to the fire to ensure Yun could never make a comeback. Feng Jingyao was shocked to hear this news. Bai Muyang patted his chest, guaranteeing he would handle this matter well. In reality, Bai Muyang just wanted Feng Jingyao to beg him. Feng Jingyao said he would rush back as soon as possible. In the meantime, Bai Muyang had to ensure Yun's reputation was not damaged. This was not the attitude Bai Muyang wanted, but Feng Jingyao had already hung up the phone. Bai Muyang had Lin Sure arrange it, delete the comments, and ban sensitive words. Ian was teaching Ro Pinyin, asking Ro to imagine a fish and read out the phonetic symbol on the card, guiding Ro to associate it with the squirrel-shaped mandarin fish he loved to eat. The phone rang. It was Feng Jingyao. After answering, Feng Jingyao asked if he was okay, telling him not to worry about the online rumors. Ian, however, was worried that this would affect Feng Jingyao's reputation. It was clearly him that Feng Jingyao should be worried about. Feng Jingyao was shy because of his sudden concern. Ian hadn't expected that he would be the first person Feng Jingyao cared about. Feng Jingyao agreed not to interfere in this matter for the time being. Zheng Lily was walking smugly through the company. Ian found her and directly asked to talk. It wouldn't take too long. Zheng Lily said she didn't have time. Ian said, on account of him helping her that night. But Zheng Lily said she didn't remember. Ian revealed the hotel room number where Zheng Lily passed her first audition, implying that anyone can make up stories, but some stories are real. He liked to see who the netizens would believe. As for who had a motive to harm him, besides Zheng Lily, he couldn't think of a second person. He wouldn't pursue the previous matter. It was enough that he knew. But she'd better not provoke him again. If anything else happened to Xianqing, he would blame it all on Zheng Lily. From now on, they would go their separate ways. She should watch herself. Zheng Lily was so angry she punched a pillar. Ian dared to challenge her just after latching onto a rich backer. The assistant wanted to persuade her to stop. He handed the phone to the furious Zheng Lily. Keywords related to Ian were now blocked. The person who spread the rumors no longer dared to work for Zheng Lily and hastily hung up on her. Zheng Lily didn't understand how Ian could make a comeback in such a short time. Why was Baixing willing to help him? She was more photogenic than Ian and craved success more, which was why she had become someone she herself hated. Perhaps from the moment Ian took her out of that room, he assumed she had accepted the unspoken rules. But it was clearly only that one time. The methods she used later, others would use too. Bai Muyang sent a message to Feng Jingyao, saying he was going to his house to deliver some wine. He completely ignored Feng Jingyao's refusal and insisted on going. Bai Muyang knew he hadn't guessed wrong. There was definitely something going on between those two. That's why he didn't go to the cocktail party, but to Feng Jingyao's house instead. Ro thought Ian was back and ran out to greet him, only to see two strangers he didn't recognize. Bai Muyang asked for Ro's name. The two briefly introduced themselves to each other. Bai Muyang asked if Ro lived here. Ro naturally told him some information. The maid came over and explained that this was the young master. Ro invited him to learn pinyin together. Bai Muyang thought this child was too cute. When Ian returned, he didn't see Ro. Learning that a friend of Feng Jingyao's had come over, Ian was troubled about what capacity he should use to meet the guest. Bai Muyang was learning pinyin with Ro. Ian knocked on the door to remind them it was dinner time. Ro turned around and was very happy to see him. Bai Muyang turned around and saw Ian. He extended his hand to greet Ian, introduced himself, and switched into professional elite mode. Inwardly, he was very excited. He hadn't expected Feng Jingyao to have already brought the person home. Ian shook Bai Muyang's hand and invited him to have dinner together. Bai Muyang could see that Ian was already in the posture of a host entertaining a guest. At the dinner table, his gaze was constantly sizing him up. After dinner, the group played with Ro for a while. Bai Muyang suggested taking a group photo. After the photo was taken, Bai Muyang sent it to Feng Jingyao. When Feng Jingyao saw the message, he noticed that Bai Muyang and Ian were standing very close. He couldn't help but feel a surge of anger, his expression turning grim. He called his assistant and ordered a pet spider to be sent to Bai Muyang at a specific time and to supervise Bai Muyang opening the box himself. Ian met with his new agent from Baixing Huangyu. Ian said he would work hard. The agent smiled amiably. He wanted to first discuss Ian's development direction and then consider future plans comprehensively. The agent wanted to end the meeting for the day and asked if Mo Jingtian was his private assistant. Mo Jingtian readily admitted it, telling the agent to contact him anytime. The agent couldn't help but guess at Ian's identity. Bringing a private assistant from the start was clearly a sign that he wasn't simple. The agent reminded him that artists were not allowed to take private jobs. All work had to be communicated with each other. The agent was puzzled. Ian had been directly assigned to him by the leadership. Why not to a more senior agent? He was a bit unsure. After walking out of Baixing Huangyu's doors, Ian was a little excited. He couldn't believe he had really joined Baixing. He had been nervous to death during the contract signing just now. Ian patted his face to calm down. He wanted to tell Feng Jingyao the good news. He suddenly realized something was off. Why was Feng Jingyao the first person he wanted to share it with? He clearly should have told AI Chief first. Bai Muyang and Lin Shi were watching Yun's films. Bai Muyang thought Yun's acting was cringeworthy. Lin Shi judged that Yun had a passion for acting, but tried too hard. Bai Muyang didn't understand what Feng Jingyao saw in Yun. What about him? His face was his biggest asset, but Feng Jingyao wasn't that shallow. And there was Ro. The fact that the servants wouldn't give him details meant there was definitely something going on. Lin Shi asked Bai Muyang how to arrange things for Yun. Bai Muyang remembered the movie Interstellar Tour and had Lin Shi arrange for Yun to audition. But based on Yun's abilities, he wasn't suitable for the audition. However, Bai Muyang's real goal was to make Yun recognize his own place. Lin Shi understood his intentions and immediately prepared to give the orders. Feng Jingyao had just finished showering when he noticed a new message on his phone. It was from Yun about signing with Baixing. Feng Jingyao knew Baixing was Bai Muyang's company. Yun had waited until the very end to inform Feng Jingyao, anticipating how Feng Jingyao would reply. Feng Jingyao thought for a moment and only replied, "Got it." Yun didn't know what this meant. Could it be that Feng Jingyao wasn't happy for him? When AI Chief found out, he was even happier than Yun himself. Why was Feng Jingyao so cold? Seeing that Yun hadn't replied, Feng Jingyao, though confused, still reminded Yun to rest early. Yun thought Feng Jingyao would be happy for him, but Feng Jingyao's cold attitude made him dissatisfied. Ro suddenly asked if he was unhappy today because he wasn't smiling. Yun forced a soulless smile. Even Ro could tell he was unhappy. Feng Jingyao called Bai Muyang to ask about Yun's signing with Baixing, asking what Bai Muyang was planning to do. Bai Muyang said that whether to promote or suppress him now was all up to Feng Jingyao. He was doing this for his brother's sake. Xianqing Entertainment's words and actions didn't match. With Feng Jingyao's lover there, it was like a pearl covered in dust. Feng Jingyao was shocked by the word lover, but he only blushed and didn't object. Instead, he asked Bai Muyang to give Yun more opportunities. Bai Muyang was full of question marks. He felt Feng Jingyao's fan filter was a bit thick and asked if he needed to see an ophthalmologist, wondering how his judgment could be so bad. When Yun came to work at Baixing Huangyu, he noticed Lin Shi walking ahead and raised his hand to greet him. Yun thought Lin Shi just worked here and that they would be colleagues from now on. He asked Lin Shi what he did. Lin Shi simply explained that he was an assistant. Someone beside him quietly reminded him to leave. Seeing this, Yun didn't bother Lin Shi any further. The two said goodbye to each other. The people nearby saw this and thought Yun was very bold. As a newcomer, he dared to approach Lin Shi, acting as if he knew him well. They chatted a bit more, hoping Yun wouldn't cause trouble in the future. Yun cheered himself on. Now that he was reborn, he had to pull himself together. The agent could hardly believe that the higher-ups wanted Yun to audition for the male lead of Interstellar Tour. He was given a movie's materials at the last minute and was told to remind Yun to study them well. The agent felt that Yun was indeed not simple, getting an audition right after joining. Lin Shi also told him not to inform the director or screenwriter, to just follow the procedure and not make any unnecessary hints. The agent understood that this was Yun wanting to rely on his own strength. Yun clearly had connections, but wanted to rely on his own strength. This was also why he didn't want special treatment and came to him for experience. He had to pay close attention to Yun. Ro's children's watch rang. After getting permission from the math teacher, Ro answered the call. Bai Muyang asked if Ro still remembered him. Ro asked if he wanted to join a math class. Bai Muyang agreed and said he would bring a cake for Ro. Ro told him to bring it secretly because Yun didn't let him eat too much. This was a little secret between him and Bai Muyang. Yun hadn't expected that he could go to the audition. The agent told him to go back and prepare well and to communicate anytime if he had questions. Yun was a little confused. Could he really do it? Before leaving, the agent had comforted him, telling him to believe in his own strength. He was the future of the company. Yun should have been happy about this, but he always felt uneasy. Was it really just because of luck that he had been lukewarm all this time? He stopped his wild thoughts. Since the opportunity had come, he had to seize it. That way, he wouldn't let down the company's expectations or the agent's trust. However, Yun always felt a lack of confidence. After returning home, Ian noticed Lin Sure busy at the dining table. Ian asked if he came alone. Learning that Bai Muyang was in the children's room, helping Ro with math, Ian decided not to disturb their studies for now. Instead, he sat down and asked Lin Sure about Interstellar Tour. Lin Sure also sat down to listen to him. Ian told Lin Sure that he was fortunate enough to participate in the audition for the main character. Lin Sure told him to give it his all and seize the opportunity without any reservations. Ian was still a bit hesitant. He rarely received affirmation. With the company suddenly giving him such a big opportunity, the first thing he felt was not happiness but panic. Lin Sure could see that he was afraid of not being selected. Ian understood in his heart. He was indeed afraid of not being chosen. But it was either being rejected or being selected. Lin Sure asked if he was afraid that people wouldn't see his talent or afraid that he simply didn't have the talent to be chosen. Ian explained dryly that he had only ever played one type of character before, the stereotypical domineering CEO. Lin Sure was somewhat satisfied with him. He did have a certain level of self-awareness. Lin Sure comforted him. Instead of worrying about whether he would be selected, it was better to do something practical. Ian immediately put on a look of listening attentively. Lin Sure told him to focus on the character itself. Quickly immersing himself in the audition role was more important. Ian was greatly inspired. He really should put all his attention on the character. Ro was reciting lines from the script. Ian felt a bit helpless and regretful as he recited the corresponding lines. Why did he, on a whim, ask Ro to run lines with him? He couldn't get into character at all. Ro was still acting with a straight face. Looking at Ro like this, Ian finally couldn't help but turn around and burst out laughing, which made Ro say he wasn't being serious. After laughing, Ian apologized to Ro. A message from Feng Jingyao came through on his phone. After a glance, Ian was about to take Ro back to his room to sleep. Ro quickly fell asleep. Ian closed the door and replied to Feng Jingyao's message. Feng Jingyao reminded him to rest early too. Ian asked when he would be back. Feng Jingyao didn't expect him to ask that and sent a message asking what was wrong. Ian realized his question was a bit inappropriate and gave a perfunctory reply. Feng Jingyao felt that something was really wrong. Only then did Ian reluctantly tell Feng Jingyao that he wanted him to run lines with him. Feng Jingyao interpreted it as Ian wanting his company. Ian felt it wasn't a big deal and that he could find someone else. When Feng Jingyao saw that Ian was about to find someone else, he frantically organized his words. When he sent the message to Ian, it was just 4 words, back tomorrow. Ian smiled happily after seeing it. Ro complained that Ian went to work again and had no time to play with him. He could only play with his toys. Bamiyang told him that all adults need to work. He didn't have to work because he was the boss. A boss can do whatever he wants. Ro said he wanted to be a boss in the future, which drew laughter from the maid. Ro asked Bai Muyang if he knew why he liked him. Bai Muyang was looking forward to the answer. Ro said it was because he was always sparkling. Bai Muyang thought this sparkling referred to the accessories on his body. He took off the ring on his hand. Ro found that it wasn't sparkling after he took it off. Only when Bai Muyang wore it did it sparkle. Bai Muyang put the ring back on, and Ro saw his whole person glowing. It was sparkling and very beautiful. Ro was very envious of Bai Muyang. He also wanted to be shiny like that. Bai Muyang thought Ro was praising his good looks. Ro reached out to grab it, but caught nothing. It was completely different from when he grabbed the spiritual energy before. Ro kept trying and kept grabbing at empty air. Bai Muyang thought it was some new game and followed along. Ro didn't understand why he couldn't catch it this time. The assistant reported to Feng Jingyao that the lead had gone cold. The thief had strong counter-surveillance skills. He needed more time to investigate. Feng Jingyao decided to go back directly. Staying here was just a waste of time. He was certain that those people thought the fertilized egg was his, so they would definitely make good use of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to such great lengths to steal it. The assistant, hearing this, said no more and followed the arrangement to book a flight. Ian wiped the sweat from his forehead and finally couldn't help but shout out. He was in the gym doing stretches. AI Chi told him to be quieter, saying he was screaming like a pig being slaughtered. Ian just felt like his ligaments were about to snap. AI Chi told him to seize the opportunity and asked if he wanted him to run lines with him. After sending the coach off, Ian collapsed on the floor and refused, because he had already found someone to practice with. AI Chi noticed it was getting late. He had to finish his morning workout and rush to his schedule. Ian also had to go to the company for a closed-door session to study the character. The audition was scheduled for next week. AI Chi wished him good luck with the audition. Ian said he would do his best. Ian was very happy that Feng Jingyao was coming back tonight. On the plane, the assistant wanted to let Feng Jingyao rest for a while, but Feng Jingyao was looking at something. The assistant didn't know what important documents he was reading. Seeing Feng Jingyao's serious expression, the assistant was very curious about what he was looking at. The assistant noticed Feng Jingyao frowning and thought the matter was so serious it couldn't be solved. He couldn't help but start a panic. Feng Jingyao was actually reading the script Yun had sent. The assistant saw some keywords and thought Feng Jingyao was reading a novel. This was truly incredible. Feng Jingyao was usually not this serious, even when reading work documents. Could it be that Feng Jingyao wanted to enter the entertainment industry? Roro was still playing a role from the script. Ian played along with a wry smile. Ian inadvertently glanced at the clock, worried about a flight delay. He had clearly said he would be home by 10 o'clock. Ian stopped the playful Roro and told him to go wash up and sleep. Roro was a little unhappy, wanting the gift Feng Jingyao was bringing back. Ian explained to him that the plane might be delayed and told Roro to be a good boy and sleep. Only good children could receive gifts. Roro immediately wanted to be a good boy. He wanted the gift. He quickly ran to his room to sleep obediently. Ian paced back and forth. There was no news of a flight delay, but Feng Jingyao still hadn't returned. He was worried that there had been an accident on the way back. Thinking of this, he was about to go out to find Feng Jingyao. Just as Ian pushed open the main door and took a step out, he bumped into the returning Feng Jingyao. Ian questioned why his phone was unreachable and he didn't reply to texts. Feng Jingyao explained that he had left his phone on the plane and going back to get it had caused a delay. Ian retorted that he could have used someone else's phone to contact him. Feng Jingyao saw it was late and was afraid of disturbing Ian's rest. Ian emphasized that he had said he would wait for Feng Jingyao to come back. He couldn't contact Feng Jingyao, so how could he possibly sleep? Feng Jingyao suddenly moved closer to Ian and silently pulled him into a tight embrace. He opened his mouth to apologize for making him worry and solemnly said, "I'm back." Ian was a little dizzy. Why the sudden hugging when they were just talking? But his hands still wrapped around Feng Jingyao in return. The two embraced warmly. It's just that after hugging for a while, their thoughts were no longer in sync. Ian asked if Feng Jingyao was tired and suggested they rest early. Feng Jingyao chuckled lightly and agreed. The sleeping Roro was dreaming of delicious food. Ian patted Roro's body to wake him up. Roro rubbed his eyes and saw Feng Jingyao standing beside him. He groggily looked around and found that he was surrounded by gifts. Feng Jingyao told Roro to slowly unwrap them after breakfast. Roro was very happy. Feng Jingyao and Ian also looked at each other and smiled. But then, the two noticed something strange and simultaneously blushed and looked away. At Xiangqing Entertainment, Zheng Lily was extremely shocked. The company actually wanted her to audition for a bit part. Zhang Jie told her to calm down and not be impulsive. Zheng Lily asked if she thought her status wasn't high enough, or if she was deliberately trying to mess with her. Zhang Jie reminded her that the audition was for a role in Interstellar Tour. Even just making an appearance would be good. Only then did Zheng Lily realize it was Interstellar Tour. Zhang Jie said the audition was just a formality. The role was already set for Zheng Lily. Zheng Lily grabbed Zhang Jie's hand, her face wreathed in smiles, indicating she was willing. It was no longer the expression from just now. Seeing that Zheng Lily was willing to go, Zhang Jie said that Luo Shui had something to tell her. She hoped she would be more restrained. She couldn't afford to offend anyone in this production crew. Her future stardom was in her own hands. The audition was next week. Zhang Jie reminded her not to be late. Bai Muyang received a call from Feng Jingyao. He answered and asked what Feng Jingyao wanted. Feng Jingyao said he was sending him money. Bai Muyang was puzzled, wondering when he had ever been short of money. Feng Jingyao asked if Interstellar Tour still needed investment. Bai Muyang hadn't expected Feng Jingyao to say that. Feng Jingyao said he had just returned to the country last night and suggested they meet to talk in the next couple of days. Bai Muyang knew that the Feng family had never touched the entertainment industry. But now Feng Jingyao was in charge of the Feng family. Bai Muyang thought about it and felt it made sense. No one would complain about having too much money. He agreed to talk with Feng Jingyao. It was a good chance to open the eyes of those old fossils in the Fong family, so they wouldn't always think that being in entertainment was a disreputable business that would lose money. Fong Jingyao suddenly asked shyly if Yun was auditioning next week. Bai Muyang was taken aback by this question. He suddenly understood why Fong Jingyao wanted to invest in the movie. It was for Yun. Fong Jingyao only replied, "If you want to think so, then I guess it is." Bai Muyang didn't expect Fong Jingyao to admit it. Luckily, he hadn't blacklisted Yun back then. Otherwise, he would have probably been beaten to a pulp by Fong Jingyao. His gossip intuition was truly his life-saving charm. He asked about the previous blacklisting order. Fong Jingyao told him to lift it. Roro listened to the lines seriously, while Fong Jingyao and Yun were running lines. Fong Jingyao threw out a question. Yun portrayed the character according to the script, showing a joyful expression upon successfully cracking the combination lock. When faced with a difficult problem, Yun also acted out a calm and analytical side. The resource allocation was also logical and well-founded. The three of them acted out a situational drama at home. Yun used the script to pretend it was a flashlight. When he sensed something was wrong, Fong Jingyao quickly pulled Yun to dodge the danger. The two were suddenly very close, their noses already touching. Fong Jingyao silently wrapped his arm around Yun's waist. Seeing this, Ro shouted, "Be careful," and hugged them too. Yun was confused. This part was clearly supposed to be him pushing him away. He didn't understand why Fong Jingyao changed it to an embrace. He complained about Fong Jingyao changing the script randomly. He wanted to end the practice. Fong Jingyao glanced at Yun. Their clasped hands showed signs of their fingers intertwining. Yun was startled by this change, but Fong Jingyao had already let go of his hand. He asked him if he had found the feeling and if he was still nervous. Yun said he felt more confident now. He really didn't need him. He might have to trouble him often recently. Ro, who wanted to help, also received praise. A few days later, Bai Muyang and Fong Jingyao signed a cooperation agreement. The assistant thought that Fong Jingyao was indeed in it for the investment. He would have to read more scripts in the future. Bai Muyang wasn't afraid of Fong Jingyao backing out. He asked him with his gossip intuition what his requirements were. Fong Jingyao was obviously a little hesitant. Bai Muyang said that although Yun was basically brought in with backing, the lead role couldn't just be given to him because he wanted it. Fong Jingyao requested a suitable position for Yun in the crew. Bai Muyang agreed at once. This time, Yun would definitely gain something. It would let Yun see what professionalism and cinematic art are. Fong Jingyao asked another question. Could he visit the set? Bai Muyang agreed to let him visit, but advised him to be low-key. When a sponsor visits the set, some actors will act high-profile and domineeringly in the crew. Some actors will worry about gossip and let themselves be pointed at and talked about. Yun wasn't the type to be domineering. Fong Jingyao understood and planned not to affect Yun. On the day of the audition, Imo Jingtian and the agent who came with him cheered for Yun. Yun got his number tag for the audition. The staff told the auditioning actors to get ready. Yun got number 7, a relatively early number. He was a little nervous. He needed to calm down. Being too nervous would affect his performance. He had to think of other things to distract himself. He thought of the two people who had just cheered him on. Then he thought of Fong Jingyao, who smiled and believed in him. This was Yun's first time participating in such a formal audition. He adjusted his mindset. Yun noticed someone sit down next to him. He was just about to greet the person, but he found that it was Zheng Lily. Zheng Lily asked him why he was so surprised. Yun replied somehat akardli. Zheng Lily arrogantly stated that she was here to audition based on her own abilities. On what basis was Yun here? The people around them all had excellent works to their name. How could Yun compare to them? This was already the final round of auditions. Many people had been eliminated in the previous rounds. Yun must be very smug about parachuting in, right? Yun was very calm. He was just here as arranged by the company. Zheng Lily didn't believe his words at all. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the hall. A staff member led a group of people in. Zheng Lily stood up to see what was happening. She learned from others that the investors were here to observe. However, they wouldn't interfere with the casting. Some actors were worried that the roles were already internally decided. The person next to him comforted him, saying Director Lee wasn't that kind of person. Yun's eyes suddenly widened. He saw Fong Jingyao's figure. Zheng Lily also saw Fong Jingyao. She felt he looked a bit familiar. Yun stood up, hesitating whether to call out. Fong Jingyao had already noticed him. Yun immediately raised a smile, wanted to greet him. but Feng Jingyao turned his head and ignored him. Ian showed a surprised expression. Feng Jingyao had already walked away with the crowd. He ignored Ian only because he didn't want to affect him. Zheng Lili remembered who Feng Jingyao was. She mocked Ian, asking if he had been dumped. Ian told her not to talk nonsense, that there was nothing between them. A female actress happily called out to stop Feng Jingyao. Seeing Feng Jingyao stop, she quickly introduced herself. Feng Jingyao naturally remembered her as Yao Yuhan. It's just, why was she here? Yao Yuhan said she was here to audition. It was a birthday gift from Bai Muyang. She just wanted to experience the life of an actor. She called her good friend, Wei Qianqian, to meet Feng Jingyao. After seeing Feng Jingyao, Wei Qianqian first greeted him, then easily linked her arm with Feng Jingyao's. In the audition room, the judges were organizing the evaluation forms. Feng Jingyao was in the back, looking through the actors' profiles. He hadn't expected to run into Wei Qianqian here. He was worried that Yun had seen the scene just now. From what Yao Yuhan had just said, he had become someone who came specifically to find Wei Qianqian. Moreover, Wei Qianqian had also said before that he would come and find her. Feng Jingyao retorted in his heart. He had never said he would look for her, but Yao Yuhan's words, both explicitly and implicitly, seemed to be trying to make this a fact. Feng Jingyao asked Wei Qianqian why she was here. Wei Qianqian explained that she was accompanying Yao Yuhan. Feng Jingyao reminded her that accompanying personnel needed to wait outside the hall. Wei Qianqian secretly complained that Feng Jingyao wasn't giving her face. Yao Yuhan smoothed things over for her, saying that she had gotten a spot for her. Looking at the two of them talking and laughing, Feng Jingyao felt somewhat resentful. Ian had practiced so hard before, yet these two were treating it like a game. Feng Jingyao pushed away Wei Qianqian's hand. He coldly told the two of them not to waste everyone's time and ordered Wei Qianqian to go out and wait. Wei Qianqian was frightened by his expression. Feng Jingyao didn't want to say more and turned to leave. At this, Wei Qianqian showed a desolate expression. She forced a smile and explained to Yao Yuhan, covering up for Feng Jingyao's strangeness. Seeing Wei Qianqian trying to please her, Yao Yuhan didn't think much of it. Ian saw the two of them walk away together. He was wondering who Wei Qianqian was. Zheng Lili thought that Wei Qianqian was Feng Jingyao's girlfriend. Ian's expression immediately turned a little sour. Zheng Lili continued to add fuel to the fire, bringing up the matter of Feng Jingyao ignoring Ian again. Ian sat back down on the chair, dejected. Zheng Lili was very pleased. She didn't have to do anything at all. He could be rattled with just a few words. Ian was just that weak and incompetent. Roro was playing with a hand puppet. He used a hand puppet to recite Ian's lines. Halfway through, he forgot some of the words. Bai Muyang gently reminded him from the side. Then he praised Roro for acting well, hyping him up nonstop, calling him a future best actor. Roro said that he practices with Ian every day, so Ian will definitely do very well. On the audition stage, Ian was a bit distracted. The judge's angry roar startled him, questioning why he was so absent-minded and hadn't even memorized his lines. Ian became even more flustered, and his performance was also terrible. The expressions on the judges' faces were not pleasant. Ian's mind went blank. He couldn't remember anything. He had messed up the audition. The atmosphere at the audition grew tense. Ian couldn't continue acting at all. Feng Jingyao watched him with some concern. The judge told him to calm his emotions before continuing. Ian bowed in apology and asked for 5 seconds to adjust. Ian suddenly heard someone tell him to have a drink of water. Director Li Xiuyu handed him a bottle of water. After taking it, Ian noticed the nameplate on the table and felt that the name Li Xiuyu was very familiar. The person next to him called out director and passed the water to Li Xiuyu. Only then did Ian remember. This highly acclaimed great director was the director of Interstellar Tour. Ian swallowed hard. Li Xiuyu was still comforting him, telling him not to be nervous and to focus on his performance. Ian fiercely chugged a few mouthfuls of water. This time, he went all out. Feng Jingyao also earnestly cheered for him in his heart. Ian's subsequent performance went very smoothly, and he perfectly delivered the effect he had achieved in rehearsals. After he finished, the judging panel told him to go back and wait for a notification. Li Xiuyu suddenly spoke up and asked Ian to try another role, the spaceship's artificial intelligence, during the part where it sends a crash warning. Although Ian agreed, he hadn't prepared for this part. Li Xiuyu gave him 3 minutes to prepare. The 3-minute countdown began. Ian had a very good memory, so memorizing lines shouldn't be a problem. He just needed to concentrate. Feng Jingyao could see that the lines for this part were very long, which is a great test of one's ability to memorize quickly. He worried whether Ian could do it. Due to his nervousness, Ian stumbled over his lines a bit. He suddenly noticed that Feng Jingyao had been sitting in the back the whole time, and only then realized he was there. He had been so nervous just now that he hadn't even seen Feng Jingyao. Feng Jingyao had an expression as if he wanted to say something but held back. Ian was puzzled about what Feng Jingyao wanted to say, guessing he might be very disappointed. He suddenly noticed Feng Jingyao opening his mouth. He silently mouthed the words "you could do it" to him, followed by an encouraging smile. Ian felt encouraged. He couldn't let his previous efforts go to waste. The 3-minute countdown ended. Ian put down the script in his hands and perfectly portrayed the image of an artificial intelligence. After Ian finished acting, the judge told him to go back and wait for a notification. He secretly glanced behind him. He saw Feng Jingyao smiling in approval of his performance. Ian chickened out, immediately averting his gaze from Feng Jingyao's smile. Only after leaving the audition room did Ian breathe a sigh of relief. He was grateful that Li Shuyu hadn't given up on him and had even given him a new opportunity. Feng Jingyao suddenly sent him a message, telling him to wait in the lounge area so that they could go home together. Ian smiled when he saw the message. Suddenly, an angry roar from a corner startled him. He turned his head in confusion to check the situation. Half an hour earlier, Zheng Lili was very happy that things had gone smoothly just now. This role was practically tailor-made for him. Although it had few lines, the character had a positive and tragic image. He couldn't help but start imagining his future with the prospect of becoming a top-tier star. Zheng Lili suddenly heard people talking about a role. Someone was in the emergency stairwell begging for a role to be internally decided. Zheng Lili leaned in to eavesdrop. Inside, Yao Yuhan was begging Zhang Fudao. He wanted the role of the liaison officer. This was also the role Zheng Lili had auditioned for. Zhang Fudao was clearly hesitant. Wei Qianqian immediately brought up Yao Yuhan's status. Yao Yuhan also reminded him that the Yao family and Bai Muyang had deep connections. He only came to Zhang Fudao to pull some strings because he didn't want to trouble Bai Muyang. Only then did Zhang Fudao agree. Zheng Lili was extremely shocked to hear this. Unwilling to have the role that was within his grasp snatched away, he pushed open the emergency door. He questioned Yao Yuhan, asking what right he had to steal his role. Ian happened to hear this sentence as he came out. He determined the voice came from the emergency stairwell and secretly hid around the corner to listen. Yao Yuhan asked who Zheng Lili was and how the role was his. Ian recognized both parties involved in the conflict. Wei Qianqian reminded Zheng Lili that the role had not been officially announced yet. Ian wanted to pretend he hadn't heard such a thing, but as he backed away, he bumped into a trash can. The sound attracted the group's attention. Ian had no choice but to show himself and apologize. Zheng Lili didn't expect Ian to be here. Ian tried to slip away, but was stopped by Zheng Lili. Zheng Lili stated that Ian could prove the role was his. Ian looked completely baffled, not knowing what to say. Zheng Lili explained that for him to successfully jump ship to Baixing, Baixing had spent a lot of resources and paid a breach of contract penalty. One of the terms was a role in Interstellar Tour. Baixing had promised to give him this role. Ian didn't know about this. Zheng Lili asked Zhang Fudao if this was true. Zhang Fudao coughed. He stated that Zheng Lili had misunderstood. Someone from above had indeed recommended him for the audition, but the role was not set in stone. You need evidence to back up your words. If a contract was signed before, then show the contract. If there's no contract, go back and wait for the notification. Zheng Lili felt wronged, thinking they were bullying him too much. He turned his spear on Ian, telling him to say something because this was all his fault. Ian didn't understand what this had to do with him. While he was at a loss, a hand rested on Ian's shoulder. Feng Jingyao appeared, asking what Zheng Lili wanted Ian to say. He forcefully demanded that Zheng Lili explain himself. Ian asked Feng Jingyao why he came out, as the event wasn't over yet. Feng Jingyao said he came to find him early and happened to hear his name in the hallway. Before Ian could explain the whole story, Yao Yuhan begged Feng Jingyao to stand up for him. Feng Jingyao asked what happened. In Yao Yuhan's version, Zhang Fudao was someone who admired his acting and invited him to play a role. Zheng Lili pointed out that they were clearly the ones who threatened Zhang Fudao. The word threatened put both Feng Jingyao and Ian on high alert. Caught between the two sides, Zhang Fudao found it hard to speak. Yao Yuhan pretended to be wronged, saying he would never threaten anyone. Zheng Lili wanted his own assistant to testify. Wei Qianqian stated that Zheng Lili's assistant would surely say whatever he wanted. Zheng Lili turned to Yiyun for confirmation, but Yiyun had only heard the words steal the role. By the time he arrived, they were already arguing. Yao Yuhan smirked that Zheng Lili had no witness, just empty words without proof. Zheng Lili believed they were ganging up on him and asked Yiyun if he had been wanting to get revenge on him all along. Yiyun didn't expect Zheng Lili to think that way. Zheng Lili questioned him, asking if he, with no works and no acting skills, had relied on Feng Jingyao beside him to gain Baixing's approval. Zheng Lili's words made Feng Jingyao unhappy. He glanced worriedly at Yiyun. Wei Qianqian was the first to lose her cool, thinking Zheng Lili was talking nonsense. Yiyun told Zheng Lili not to blame everything on him and not to impose his own dirty thoughts and energy onto him. Feng Jingyao told Zheng Lili to watch his words and actions, warning that next time he would take legal action and bring his acting career to an end. Feng Jingyao wanted to hear Zhang Fudao's opinion. Zhang Fudao acknowledged Yao Yuhan's acting skills and stated that there was no situation of giving a role to anyone in advance. Feng Jingyao asked Zheng Lili if he heard clearly. Zheng Lili couldn't find the words to defend himself, stammering incoherently. Feng Jingyao forcefully ordered him to go back and wait for the notification. Feng Jingyao was about to leave with Yiyun. Wei Qianqian opened her mouth to call out to him. Seeing he didn't react, she raised her voice. Feng Jingyao turned back and asked distantly what she wanted. Wei Qianqian didn't dare to continue the conversation and could only wave her hand. Yao Yuhan noticed the atmosphere was a bit off. He had some suspicions. After the audition ended, Bai Muyang asked Li Xiuyu about the results. Li Xiuyu was pursuing Bai Muyang's aunt and asked him to call him uncle-in-law. He said he'd seen all the people Bai Muyang had pointed out, and they were all pretty good. Bai Muyang told him to decide if they were usable, as he was just recommending them. He then mentioned Yiyun's name. Bai Muyang's eyes filled with excitement. Li Xiuyu felt that Yiyun had good physical attributes, but his acting was decent but not outstanding. His strength was that he memorized lines quickly, just as Bai Muyang had predicted. Overall, he was rather average, but this led to a high probability of being eliminated. Back home, Ro asked Yiyun how it went today. Yiyun felt the result wasn't good. Ro comforted him, saying the result would be better next time. Yiyun thought there wouldn't be a next time. He had acted very unprofessionally at the beginning today. If Li Xiuyu hadn't encouraged him, he wouldn't have been able to complete the performance. He didn't understand why he felt so disappointed when he saw Feng Jingyao ignoring him. Why did he feel uncomfortable seeing Feng Jingyao chatting with someone else? Why did he have these feelings? Yiyun received a call from the Interstellar Tour production team. He was so nervous, everything became a blur. The production team regretfully informed him that the result of his audition was rejection. Although it was a pity, it was an answer Yiyun had expected. Yiyun was about to hang up when the production team quickly stopped him. Although the role of Jackson wasn't suitable for him, he had also auditioned for another role. A glimmer of hope ignited in Yiyun's heart. He fumbled and asked the other person not to reveal the result just yet. He tidied his appearance, sat up straight on the floor, and asked the person to announce the result. The production team congratulated him on getting the role of the artificial intelligence, confirming that he would be playing it. They would contact his agent about the subsequent contract signing. Yiyun was overwhelmed by immense joy. Ro came over and asked him what was wrong. Yiyun excitedly said that he passed. Ro was also happy for him and gave him a yaya bouquet. Bai Muyang didn't expect Yiyun to get an official role. He thought Li Xiuyu would just give Yiyun a minor role. Lin Shi thought this proved that Yiyun just lacked systematic acting training. Bai Muyang felt that Yiyun was lucky enough to have a role that didn't require much emotion, which happened to suit him. Lin Shi told Bai Muyang to rest assured that this was just the beginning. He believed Yiyun could go far. It had been a long time since Bai Muyang heard him say something like that. Lin Shi admitted that he saw potential in Yiyun. He wanted to personally manage Yiyun. The agent praised Yiyun's strong abilities. Yiyun thought it was a fluke and that Li Xiuyu just had a good personality. The agent was confident that Yiyun could make a successful debut. He handed the cast list for Interstellar Tour to Yiyun. Yiyun noticed that Zheng Lili had not been selected. Although the truth of what happened that day was unknown, Yiyun believed he hadn't lied. He hoped he would learn his lesson this time. Not everything can go your way. It's better to examine yourself than to resent others. Ian learned that before filming began, the main actors had to undergo a 2-month closed-off training camp. The name of the movie itself indicated the direction of the training. They were going to participate in astronaut training. Ian was a little nervous. He was going to train with this group of outstanding actors. It seemed he was really going to make a comeback. The agent told him to get himself ready and enter the base next Monday. During the training period, the use of communication devices would be restricted. If he had any matters to attend to, he should take care of them before entering the base. Ian went home and started preparing his things for the training camp. Feng Jingyao reminded him to keep the protective amulet with him at all times. Roro wasn't quite sure how long 2 months was. Ian realized he had gotten carried away with his happiness and forgotten about Roro. During the 2 months he was away for training, what would happen to Roro? Both Feng Jingyao and Roro looked puzzled. Ian had already started imagining that during his absence, Feng Jingyao would have a complete personality change, turning into a wicked stepmother and abusing Roro. Roro wouldn't have enough to eat or warm clothes to wear. The bodyguards would bully him, and the maids would despise him. Ian sank into a deep state of resentment. After a long while, he asked Feng Jingyao if he would take good care of Roro. He told him not to just brush him off, but to answer seriously. Feng Jingyao assured him. Yun then demanded to hear his child-raising plan, ever vigilant that Feng Jingyao might sell Roro. Feng Jingyao suddenly moved closer to Yun and handed him the Roro in his arms. Feng Jingyao arranged for Roro to attend kindergarten as a day student on weekdays, and a private tutor would also come to the house. On weekends, Feng Jingyao would be at home with the child. He could work from home and hold video conferences. Ian showed a distrustful expression. Would Feng Jingyao really not secretly abandon Roro? Feng Jingyao would also ask Bai Muyang to come and play with Roro. After all, Bai Muyang wasn't busy. It was his assistants and subordinates who were busy. Ian couldn't help but wonder if this was really okay. Previously, when he joined a production, he would leave Roro with his aunt and uncle. But this time he would be gone for so long, and he was really worried. Feng Jingyao told him to eat first and pack the rest of his luggage later. Feng Jingyao took out the wine Bai Muyang had brought last time as a celebratory drink. Roro also wanted a drink, but was stopped by both of them. The three of them clinked glasses to celebrate Yun passing the audition. The father and son took a big gulp, while Feng Jingyao raised his glass elegantly. Ian drank the wine in one go and said he would continue to work hard. Feng Jingyao wanted him to drink slower, as the alcohol content was a bit high. In high spirits, Ian ignored this and asked for another glass. Feng Jingyao asked Ian to let go of him, but the drunk Ian hugged him and wouldn't let go. Feng Jingyao explained that he needed to take Roro back to his room. Ian heard the keyword and accused him. Feng Jingyao really did want to send Roro away, to throw Roro in a garbage heap. Feng Jingyao patiently refuted him, sentence by sentence. Ian cried and begged Feng Jingyao not to take Roro away, wailing that Feng Jingyao was too mean. That Roro was clearly his. Feng Jingyao promised to treat Roro well and to treat him well too. Ian was lost in his own delusions about finding the abandoned Roro. Feng Jingyao hadn't expected a drunk Yun to be like this. He inexplicably found this version of Yun very cute. In his sleep, Feng Jingyao felt a heavy weight on his body, as if his body was tightly bound by ropes. And a giant rock was slowly descending in front of him. In reality, it was just Yun pressing on him in his sleep. And Yun turned over in his sleep, his arms swinging down towards Feng Jingyao. The giant rock in the dream fell. Feng Jingyao was also woken up by Yun's arm hitting him. Feng Jingyao opened his eyes and sighed, hearing Yun talking in his sleep. The sleeping Yun clenched his fists. He was muttering that he could act well, that he would try his best, waving his fists. Feng Jingyao reached out and held his hand, telling Yun that he could do it, that he could act well. He would be a good actor, so he should have a sweet dream while sleeping. Feng Jingyao placed Yun's hand back and tucked him into the blanket. The two slept peacefully for a while. Feng Jingyao heard Roro's pained voice. Roro squirmed and crawled towards the edge of the bed. He couldn't hold his pee anymore. Feng Jingyao quickly moved to carry him to the bathroom. As he ran, Roro could no longer hold it in. The groggy Roro just peed. It all went onto Feng Jingyao's pants. The still sleeping Yun had a dream. In the dream, There were many doors in front of him. He didn't know which one was the real door. He had to find which door the bathroom was behind. Roro apologized to Feng Jingyao. He had just dreamed a toilet. Feng Jingyao comforted him, saying it was okay, and told him to go back to sleep. Ian's expression was pained. He was not sleeping peacefully. In his dream, Ian finally found the bathroom, and it was a golden toilet. Ian immediately relieved himself. As Feng Jingyao was sleeping, he suddenly felt that the sensation beneath him was not right. Ian woke up. He felt his lower body was chilly. Looking down, he saw that Feng Jingyao had lifted the blanket. Ian sat up to check and immediately blushed beet red. After Feng Jingyao changed the bed sheets, the father and son apologized to him. Wei Qianqian was selling her luxury goods. The buyer gave her a price. She felt it was a bit low. The buyer insisted on not adding more money because these regular models don't sell well. Wei Qianqian had no choice but to accept the price. She left the luxury goods store. The luxury goods Feng Jingyao had given her were almost all sold. Her living expenses were running low. Whenever Yao Yuhan asked her out, she was the one who paid. That group of young ladies thought she was Feng Jingyao's girlfriend, so she naturally couldn't appear too shabby. She had to get in touch with Feng Jingyao as soon as possible. Inside a villa, He Linwei took the Interstellar Tour cast list that was handed to her. She and Ran Xinyao were playing the female and male leads. Her agent informed her about the upcoming training camp. She agreed while continuing to read down the list, noticing Yun's name. The agent was a bit nervous, thinking something was wrong with Yi Linwei. Yi Linwei thought to herself, isn't Yun that cheap cousin of hers? Soon, it was the day to enter the base. A sign at the base entrance read, "No entry for unauthorized personnel." Yun's group gathered in front of the main gate. A staff member told them to pack their essential items into a bag. This surprised Yun's group. They had prepared a lot of luggage. Roro noticed that the bag was so small, it couldn't even fit a doll. He asked the staff member if he couldn't bring toys. The staff member answered that he couldn't. Looking at the adorable Roro, the staff member still hardened his heart. He also emphasized that communication within the base was strictly managed. Ian was troubled, wondering what to pack in such a small bag. Feng Jingyao told him to bring basic toiletries and a change of underwear. Feng Jingyao offered to help him pack, but he refused with a red face. He fumbled around in a panic, scattering things everywhere. In the end, the bag was stuffed full, but many things were still left out. Ian felt the bag simply couldn't fit everything. Feng Jingyao sighed and took the bag from Yun's hands. He emptied everything out and personally helped him pack. Another car pulled up in front of the aerospace base. When the person got out of the car, they even held up a parasol. Yi Linwei walked out, surrounded by her assistants. Ian noticed her and recognized her as the nation's goddess, Yi Linwei. He didn't expect her to actually attend the training camp. He was going to train with her. Yi Linwei was his aunt's favorite actress. He had to find a way to get an autograph. The staff member repeated what he had said earlier to Yi Linwei's group. The assistant was dissatisfied that such a small bag couldn't even fit skincare products. Yi Linwei noticed Ian packing his luggage off to the side. Hearing her assistant still emphasizing the importance of the luggage, she sized up Yun for a moment. She suddenly spoke up and told her assistant to pack, bringing only the necessary items. Yi Linwei thought to herself, so this is the son of the little aunt who ran away from home 30 years ago. The maternal grandson grandpa has been missing for so long. In all these years, little aunt has never returned home, probably having long forgotten her family. But grandpa and dad have always been thinking about little aunt and her cousin. Since little aunt won't come home, she must at least find a way to get her cousin to go back and see grandpa. Yi Linwei observed him secretly for a while, thinking that her cousin was good-looking, but didn't seem very smart. Over here, Feng Jingyao had already finished packing and urged Ian to train well and not get injured. Ian also told him to get some rest, to be sure to take good care of Roro, and also to take good care of himself. Ian said goodbye to Feng Jingyao's group. Yi Linwei looked at Feng Jingyao's smiling side profile. She felt like she had seen this person somewhere before, but not in the entertainment industry. At this moment, her things were also packed. She was certain she had met Feng Jingyao before. A cartoon was playing on the TV. Roro was thrilled to see the three-headed Yaya. Feng Jingyao held Roro and heard his assistant mention something. There was a family gathering this Wednesday. Feng Jingyao thought for a moment in silence, then raised his hand to stroke Roro's hair. He understood it was a treacherous banquet. Wei Qianqian angrily hung up her mother's call, asking for money. Full of anger, she threw her phone on the ground. Someone else called. The buzzing of the phone irritated her. Wei Qianqian wanted to ignore the sound, but the phone kept ringing. She finally answered the phone and demanded, "Will you ever stop?" Only to hear another voice that surprised her. Wei Qianqian looked at her phone screen. It was a call from Siwen. Siwen was Feng Jingyao's assistant. She quickly apologized to Siwen, saying that someone had been making harassment calls, and she had mistaken him for the harasser. Siwen was calling to ask if she was free on Wednesday to accompany Feng Jingyao to a gathering. Wei Qianqian immediately said she was available anytime and would prepare in advance. After hanging up, Wei Qianqian was very excited. She felt extremely lucky. As long as she performed well this time, she would solidify her status as Feng Jingyao's girlfriend and could get to know more socialites. But this couldn't go on forever. Afterwards, Feng Jingyao might not contact her for a long time again. She would not allow this to happen. She had finally gotten to know upper-class figures and was determined not to live an ordinary life again. She had to rely on Feng Jingyao to escape her current situation. Ran Xinya reached out his hand in greeting. He was Yi Yun's roommate during the training camp. Yi Yun was overwhelmed by the favor and shook Ran Xinya's hand back. Ran Xinya turned back to pack his personal belongings. Yi Yun was thrilled. He had actually shaken the hand of Ran Xinya, the three-time consecutive champion of the domestic male god list. Ran Xinya suddenly ran into some trouble. He asked Yi Yun for help. Yi Yun immediately stood at attention and asked what the matter was. Ran Xinya gravely asked him if he had brought any miracle water. He also hadn't brought regular toner or moisturizing serum. He hadn't even brought lotion or anything like that. Ran Xinya broke down and asked him what he did bring. He replied that he only brought facial cleanser and no other skincare products. Ran Xinya complained, "These stinky men are unreliable. I shouldn't have expected a straight guy like Yi Yun to bring skincare products."